first item is a hearing related to Century Mill Estates, hours of operations and noise complaints. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board is holding a public hearing on Wednesday, November 5th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen room of the Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Massachusetts, to hear and act upon a modification to permit condition number 16 related to hours of operation, and shown on page 8 of amendment of definitive subdivision approval recorded at Worcester Registry, Book 41767, page 165. The hours of operation are related to construction activity at Century Mill Estates located off Mill Pond Road, identified on Assessor's Map 2.D as parcels 53 through 135 in Bolton's residential district. The proposed development consists of a 78-lot subdivision currently under construction. So, just as an announcement, Andy Beddixon and his lawyer Alan Shockett will not be with us tonight. Alan had health issues, I guess, a week or two ago, and although he did make it to the Conservation Commission, was it last night?
It was last night.
And I felt that 2 evening meetings in a week was too much, so they're not here tonight. So we will, we will discuss this, but we will most likely continue it, and meet again with Andy and Alan, with them included.
May I pose a question?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm Linda Crabtree, 60 Spectacle Hill. So if his attorney couldn't make it, is there any reason why they could not have assigned another attorney to come to something like this? And my question is, if this attorney cannot make it to the next one, how many more meetings like this will occur if they cannot make it? Because to me, it's a default.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just posing that question now, that this doesn't continue going forward.
Yep, so this is the second meeting that they haven't been able to attend.
And I did address that concern with Andy today at our weekly construction meeting. And basically I told him, as a courtesy, the planning board more than likely will continue the hearing so that you can be present for when the decision is made. However, if for some reason you're unable to attend at our next hearing, you either get other representation or they're going to make the decision without you. So he knows that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to make a quick announcement. First of all, sorry for being late. Secondly, whoever has the white focus, your lights are on inside. Interior light.
Wait for focus.
It's you. It's you.
Maybe before we kind of throw it open, we could go over what's being proposed in terms of
So
hours.
maybe what would be helpful is if we read what the current condition in the permit or in the subdivision approval states.
Okay. So I'll just jump to the point. So it's line 16. Construction shall not commence before 7 a.m. on Monday through Friday and shall not commence before 8 a.m. on Saturdays, Sundays, or holidays, and shall not create a nuisance as reasonably defined by the board beyond 5 p.m. For this condition, construction activities shall include but not be limited to startup of equipment or machinery, delivery of building materials and supplies, removal of trees, grubbing, clearing, grading, filling, excavating, import or export of earth materials, installation of utilities both on and off the site, demolition of existing structures, removal of stumps and debris, and erection of new structures. Is there another part in here that you think I should read?
That's it for the existing condition.
So, before this item, flared up at Century Mill, we did have somebody come in from, is that Northwoods? By the, International, across from International? The Oaks. So there was, there was a family at the Oaks, and they had a new baby, and they were upset with the construction because it was starting at, at 5 or 6, and, they weren't very responsive. So this item has come up before Century Mill, and, so the board, that has been kind of on our list of,
Radar, yeah.
Things that we wanted to discuss related to the development rules and regulations. And then, Century Mill, they were, very noisy this summer. So before we open it up, does anybody on the board have anything to say? So we'll open it up.
One other item that might be
Oh,
helpful
yeah.
to read as well is, I did receive a letter from the superintendent of the school district, and he has concerns about kids getting on and off the school bus in the morning and in the afternoon. So it might be helpful just so that everyone at home can
Yeah.
read that letter.
Great, so I think there've been complaints, and maybe before I read that, I think, Ray, are you here, Ray? Do you want to just talk about the situation?
Sure.
And then I'll read the
So
letter.
I see it as two separate issues, and for those that don't know, Ray St. Mark, 37 Mill Pond Road. I was the first house Andy sold in Century Mill Estates, so I went through all of the rigmarole with him and getting electrical and water in there, and dealt with him for a number of months, so I know him very well. He builds a great product, but he's an irrational man. I've had it with the noise myself, holidays, weekends. I have a 2-year-old at home, it's going on 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'm 400 or 500 yards away from most of it. I can't imagine what the people on some of those roads, it's virtually in their backyard on Spectacle Hill and Century Mill. Looks like many of you are here. It's got to be driving them insane. So the noise is one issue. I'll add that Andy reacts when things hit him into his wallet. So whatever decision's made, I think there needs to be fines imposed if those future conditions are violated. Otherwise, it's going to be, fall upon deaf ears. The school bus issue as a second issue is there's 7 or 8 kids in the neighborhood now at the bottom of Mill Pond Road. And I think there's another bus stop up off of South Bolton. And it can go on for a couple of weeks and then not for a couple of weeks after that, depending on what's going on in the development. But large construction vehicles barreling by kids waiting for the school bus. And these are kindergartners, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade. My daughter clings to my leg in the morning when I have the luxury of getting her on the school bus. It's just not safe. Probably 2 moratoriums, 15-minute window on when it drop off, when it pick up would be all that would be needed outside of the, as long as they're inside of the hopefully proposed new construction hours. I know Chief Alfano's been out there, he's been helpful, witnessed what had gone on a few weeks ago. Superintendent wrote the letter and he had gone out there himself. So hopefully the board can find a solution or help us find a solution for that. There's 58 more homes, somewhat, going in that development. I would imagine some of those 58 homes are going to have kids in them. There's very soon going to be 15, 20, 25 kids at that one bus stop. And how do you keep your eye? How do you corral that many kids? One of them steps out in front of a truck and it's all over. So That's the issue.
Great.
For whatever it's worth, in my personal dealings with Andy, to try and reason with him and make neighborly requests. Andy's gonna be my neighbor. He's gonna live in the house right next to me, so you can imagine how difficult this is for me to come here and like kind of say some of these things. It doesn't work. You've got to get things in writing, you've got to be legal about it, you've got to hit him in his wallet. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's
Great.
basically my...
Yeah, so I just want to read the letter related to the bus stop issue, but I wonder if we have a plan to look at that. If we could just
Well, I
pull out
have-
a small
I
plan.
have a small plan, paper plan. I can always pull something else out. So this is Technical Hill Road here, and this is Mill Pond going up. So the kids, I believe,
Sure.
are right here.
So the kids are right there at the end of Mill Pond, at the entrance.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for whatever reason, not being a public road yet, the bus can't go up the street, so until that happens, they all get picked up and
Okay.
come off the road.
Great, so I'm going to read Superintendent of Schools, Michael Wood, wrote a letter. Planning Board, I'm writing on behalf of Ray and Kate St. Martin in support of the request of the Planning Board to take action on creating a window of curtailed construction during the morning and afternoon hours when the school bus is picking up or dropping off students at the intersection of Spectacle Hill Road and Mill Pond Road. Currently, the bus travels Spectacle Hill Road in the morning between 7:45 and 8 a.m. and in the afternoon between 3:30 and 3:45. It would make the pedestrian traffic safer on this road during these times if larger construction vehicles were prohibited from traveling on Spectacle Hill Road. Specific times for one-ways or the exclusion of large construction vehicles to protect children while they board and exit the school bus should be a best practice on our rural, narrow roads. It is my recommendation that during this period of construction of Century Mill Estates, it would make sense to curtail such traffic to ensure safe pedestrian traffic to and from the bus stop. Just before, there was one other, I guess, one thing we're proposing is kind of a change in the hours, is that we haven't discussed this yet as a board. Or voted on it, but this is what we're proposing?
For the school bus? That's
No,
just,
not for the school bus, just general.
the first paragraph. is
So, this is a draft, but we can get feedback from everybody on this. So the idea was that construction activities shall occur Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., Saturdays between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., and, no work on Sundays or holidays. So that's kind of what, we can get some feedback on that.
So that on Saturday is a curtailment of an hour on the front end, an hour on the back end, and then an elimination of Sundays and an elimination of holidays.
Yep.
That's essentially what it is. Monday through Friday, 7 to 5 stays the same.
Can I add in, I'm sorry,
1 second, I just want to make everyone ready.
I don't think we should make a vote on it necessarily, if we're going to keep the hearing open.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No,
up
I
to you,
just-
but I would support that. I think that's perfectly rational. We've done a little bit of due diligence with respect to other towns and what hours they use.
I would also support it.
I think that's pretty reasonable, both for our town and with respect to some other adjacent towns and what they employ some of these timelines.
Definitely addresses the quality of life issue and a little bit of safety, so I think that's...
Can you make a comment on the hours?
Yeah, we're gonna just open it up to all comments in a second. So is there anything else? Okay, so if you just raise your hand and I'll call on you, and you identify yourself, sir.
my name's Chris Baker. We don't live in Central Mill, we had bought a lot there. and are currently in litigation with Andy over what he did to that lot when I was away this summer overseas. And I would agree with, I'm sorry, what's your name? Ray, what Ray said. He does not listen unless you hit him in the wallet. He is not going to pay attention to anything you say to this man about restricting hours, about certain permitting, unless you fine him. And we found that out the hard way in dealing with this guy. He does what he wants to do when he wants to do it on his own. So I really urge you, to do that. Long story short, he dropped the foundation on our lot without our permission over the summer when I was in Afghanistan. He is not rectifying it. So we had to take him to court for this. That's why I would really urge you to find this guy, do something to restrict him, double check his work, due diligence with him, because he lies about everything. We've had a horrid experience with him. And now we're stuck with a lot with a foundation that we didn't agree to in a development that he controls, basically.
Thank you.
My name is Stephen Garner. I live on 42 Spectacle Hill Road, and I have the pleasure of being maybe 100 feet away from this little machine that pounds the rocks all day long, listening to the beepers. But to reinforce everything that everybody said here, and you asked Mr. Keep the last time I was here when Mr. Benenson did not show up. So for the record, this is now 2 times he hasn't shown up to all the people that are here. It all just reinforces his whole attitude towards how he treats the town and the residents of it. But he was actually operating the equipment. I went over the stone wall one night, thinking, because he said many, many times, oh, well, it's the guys that work for me, and I can't, so we all know all those stories. Given the fact that a modification of hours is, I think most people support it, I'm definitely in the camp that says there needs to be some enforcement, because in 3 years, he's done what he's wanted, when he's wanted. Now, nobody's pointing fingers on that, but that's basically what he's done. He dismantled my stone wall. On his first trip out there, started pulling all the stones off. I said, don't you even know what the lock lines are? So, when it comes to hours, me as a person that has listened to him for 3 years, for a long time now, I don't think you should be given the luxury on Saturday of 8 to 4. I think it should be shorter than that. And I have one other question, if I may, and then I'll be quiet. But when someone goes into a subdivision and it's built in stages, it appears to me that Mr. Benenson works wherever he wants in the 100 acres. I always thought that you built one phase and you came to the town and you opened the road so this man's kids don't have to stand out on the end of the street. And then you move to the next phase. So maybe I'm missing something, but it appears to me that Mr. Benenson works over on Century Mill, he works in the middle, he works over on Spectacle Hill. So at best, because I don't hear anything about an enforcement plan yet, I think what I'm hearing is you're gonna modify the hours and then see how he does. Many people here don't believe he'll do anything different than he's done. But I would just offer, in the spirit of cooperation for all of us, to get along with him, because it's difficult to be, I'm sure, a contractor. Can he stagger and alternate where he pounds the rocks and where he cuts the roads? So 1 week he may work for 3 days on the Century Mill end, and the next week he works for 3 days on the Spectacle Hill. I'm being somewhat facetious, but
Yeah.
is he allowed to just go wherever he wants in this development right now? Because it appears he is to me. We don't have to answer that question now, but I'll bring it back at a later date.
There is some phasing, but
There is some phasing related to the project. Generally speaking, he does have definitive subdivision approval, so his plan is approved. The board did grant approval for him to do work in all phases. Now, there are reasons for why the board did that. Originally, he was going to do both, there are 2 wetland crossings as part of that project, and he was, this summer, he has a certain time frame when he can get those wetland crossings done. So he was gonna work on both of those crossings, and that's part of the reason why we opened up all phases, was for him to get that work completed. Unfortunately, now that hasn't happened. He only has one of the crossings done. So that's why it seems like he's doing work in all phases, but
I would just offer down the road as a consideration, because again, I don't think anybody here believes that until we get to the subject of enforcement. And by the way, I feel very uneasy to have to call the police when he's going after fire. It puts me in a position to feel very uncomfortable. I apologize, and I feel like the woman that used to look out the window and bewitched. You know? It just makes me feel so uncomfortable. There must be an enforcement officer or someone else other than the police whose resources are limited that we have to call them up. I mean, I stopped calling them up. I just write it down now, you know? But again, that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you for your
Great,
time.
thank you.
A couple of meetings ago, we said that they should start issuing fines.
yes, I mean, that is the protocol moving forward, and you shouldn't feel uncomfortable calling the police department.
But I do.
That-
It's
You really
awkward.
shouldn't. That's what I would recommend.
That's what we need.
They're the
If we're
ones
gonna-
that
we- And
are
we
the
all have to do it.
enforcers.
If we're going to enforce, and I agree with you, there's gotta be rules, we've gotta enforce them. But we gotta be the eyes and ears too, to make that happen.
So,
So Erica, can you just talk about
In terms of
what-
enforcement.
the enforcement and
Well-
the fines?
So our zoning enforcement officer is our building inspector, Mike Sabaggio. He has limited hours at the town hall. I've been coordinating this with Mike and with the police department, our police chief, and we've all agreed that the police would be the ones that go out, because Mike has these limited hours, that the police would be the ones that go out and issue the fines. Everything's been sort of set in motion, it's just a matter of catching him when he's not in his permit.
He's too slick. I've called.
So maybe it's worth me talking to Ben and saying that just a few times we can have the police out there right at 5 o'clock.
Can-
That way,
That's a key point, though.
You know?
Are you saying that if everyone in this room makes telephone calls, and me, I'm like the guy in the cartoon on the King of the Hill, I can stand on the dirt with my cell phone. He can see me calling. Maybe I should hide when I call from home. He shuts the machine down. But bottom line, where I'm going with this is, I'm highly concerned if what I might be hearing is he won't be fined until the police literally catch him after 5 o'clock running a piece of equipment. Because if that's the case, A, it's like, that's an insult. Never mind, I feel uncomfortable having to call the cops. I'm not gonna call them and make it up.
right,
One more point.
Yeah.
One more point. And if that's the case, then I'm gonna start calling at 4:45. Because it takes him,
I
I
recommend
time
doing
him,
that.
10 minutes. It takes him 10 minutes. He
Right.
just shuts the machine off every time. I can watch the whole thing from my backyard.
I'm sure Vin would go out there once a week or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to him, and I feel bad, and I don't want you to feel like we think you're liars, because I know the
No,
truth.
I don't, but you know what
I
I'm
know the
saying? We
truth.
shouldn't have to prove to the police.
Unfortunately,
Let 'em get up there early.
legally, we need to witness it.
Then I
That's
think the
issue.
police should be there at
Earlier.
4:45.
That might be an answer.
And
And
catch
that
him
might
that
be
way.
an answer.
Yeah, that might be an
Exactly.
answer.
Yeah.
yeah, but if he sees the police,
Sorry.
he'll stop. If he sees
My
the
name is
Yes, John.
Dan Sweeney. I live at 78 Century Mill Road, and I've lived there for 30 years. Now, prior to this development, and oh, by the way, I am a developer, so I loathe to speak against developers. But in this case, this is ridiculous. This is, let's put it this way, for 29 years or 28 years, I had quiet enjoyment on my property. I do not have that today. 7 days a week, I've got this industrial noise, which is ridiculous. And I also think it actually impacts the value of the house. So I think perhaps we might all want to consider a real estate tax abatement against the town, because let's face it, this isn't the same program. Now, I'm not in the same predicament as some of these people here that purchased houses and came in here with eyes wide open, so to speak. However, 7 days a week, holidays, Father's Day, Mother's Day, cookouts on Sundays, forget about it.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is correct. This is just nonsense. It's nonsense. And I don't understand how he's gotten away with it this far.
Yeah.
But why is the planning board even giving beyond Saturday at noon time, I don't even get that. Wait a minute, what rights do we have as property owners? I didn't sign up to live to an industrial neighborhood. I understand, being a developer, that yes, this has to be done, I get that. But at whose price? I mean, you're asking me to pay a price for his profit. That's nonsense.
No, I understand why you're upset, and this is a quality of life issue. The development rules and regulations for this project were set up prior, and this is the biggest development that Bolton's ever had. So that's why we're listening to you, and that's why we're considering changing the hours of operation.
This is a Fred Flintstone, Bonnie Rubble project. This is nothing but hard ledge. Anybody that was an experienced developer should have known going in there, it's gonna be constant, either blasting or rock hammering, and that's what we've got. I don't have to put up with that 7 days a week, and I'm not going to. Somebody has to pay here. Your job is to put him under control.
Yeah, we all have an experience with Andy, and he's very difficult. He's hard to pin down. He blames other people. He doesn't take responsibility for his subcontractors. So
He's very antagonistic.
And he never can say I'm sorry. And if he's wrong, he just adds insult to injury by saying, isn't it better without the wall, or isn't it better that I cut down your trees? So we get it. We get it, and I said it at the last meeting with you. I think the attitude about this project that was inherited was, let's get this done. Let's get it done as fast as possible. But I think everybody's gotten to the point where that's not going to work anymore.
7 by 24 is too much, like
Yeah,
the gentleman
no,
said.
I
There's no
agree.
reason for 7 by 24.
Yeah. So does anyone else want to speak?
So, I have the pleasure of living almost, it's Joyce Barrett, almost
What's your-
directly opposite the entrance
Your
to
address?
what should be called,
31
quite frankly, the Spectacle Hill Road division instead of whatever it is, Century Mill, because that's what they use for everything. And my sole saving grace is that my husband and I work 1,000,000 hours a week, and we also have a place at the Cape. That said, when we were home more this summer, I could not believe the amount of activity that takes place on a daily basis when these massive tractor-trailer trucks come, park in front of my yard, and either unload or load up some major piece of mechanical equipment. Usually, I'm not good at this kind of thing, I don't know, like a crane or, one of those big, huge things. It blocks the road, it makes the most incredible noise you can imagine. It often takes an hour to get the clinking piece of equipment down to where it's going to get on this big tractor trailer truck on Spectacle Hill Road and then get the whole shebang out of there. It is crazy. So, I would say two things. First of all, I guarantee you he's not including that in his 8 to 5 or whatever the work schedule is supposed to be, because it's always even later when that's happening. And secondly, I cannot fathom how we can have a development of this size going on in this town with all that property, and he can't arrange to do that somewhere up in all that property he has that he's developing. It blocks the road, the police are often there, it is crazy. It's a hazard to everybody. There are times I can't get out of my driveway, and it's just insane on a small road like that, that's what he's allowed to do.
So you're saying that he's pulling up in front of the entrance on Spectacle Hill, the entrance
Correct.
to Century Mill Estates, and then he's offloading one of these big Caterpillar
Yes.
tread materials on
And it's
Spectacle,
often,
Digging up the road.
Yep.
blocking the
Not a
road.
zone.
And
our
then,
roads aren't that wide to begin with.
Sure. So instead of like driving the truck in and offloading,
It always happens there.
okay, and so that's, so that's very noisy for you, and then it's also has an impact on traffic.
And that happened earlier than 8 and after 5.
10 o'clock at night.
10 o'clock at night, they're loading
They're
up.
unloading
the-
equipment at 10 o'clock at night.
I could see that being legitimate unloading on the road for like a single house construction, but if, as she pointed out, if he has a whole development, lots of feet of road to pull stuff up into, I think we should put the kibosh on that entirely.
It also creates a safety issue. If a piece of fire equipment needed to get to her house,
No
my
way.
house, to that gentleman's house, in the neighborhood, they're literally blocking the street.
If they were blocking my driveway, I would go ballistic. I don't blame you.
You can't-
I would-
you can't get by
they'd
it
call
on
the
the
cops
street.
on me.
You can't get by it on the street, never mind the driveway.
The first condition on construction activity is startup of equipment or machinery, so call the cops. I mean, if they're doing that past 5, before 8.
That's assuming I'm home to call, but when I am there, it's miserable. The
You call,
noise
I mean, that's-
goes on
that's-
for an hour.
You gotta make the call.
Any time of the day, make the call on that,
Make the call.
because he should not be blocking a road that's against the law for anyone to do.
Bolton's police were there, I bet it was 2 Fridays ago, because I was late leaving the house in the morning, and they were, because we were recently robbed, they were staked out over there, and they watched the whole thing.
I'd just like to speak to the difficulty in
Identify
the
yourself.
enforcement of calling. Sorry, Allison
okay.
Hunt, 62 Century Mill.
Thank you.
And, you know, the process that you encouraged us to do, I think it was 2 meetings ago, that when we should call the police, we should call the town officials. And I was told at one point by a policeman, oh, you don't want to call, don't call at 5:10, because, his watch might be off and he has to button up things. And, okay, so what's a reasonable time to call? So I have a spreadsheet of
Wow.
8 occasions since the previous, the 2 meetings ago, when we reinforced the idea that 5 o'clock was the ending time. So 8 times when we violated it. Several were, by 5, 10 minutes. And on 2 occasions, it was 24 minutes, 25 minutes. I called the police. And by the time it came, of course, it had stopped. So, there's a delay in how long do I wait that's reasonable after 5, because I was told not to call at 10. And then it takes them 15, 20, 25 minutes to come. Nobody's dying, but it is frustrating, and there was one time in particular where it was, for weeks and weeks in September and early October, I could stand in my living room and watch this big yellow backhoe moving around from here to there. We're 200 feet away from where he's doing something. And there were lots of machine noises, lots of bang, bang, bang. At 5:08, all that noise stopped except for one machine. And I'm willing to guess that was Andy on the machine, but that noise went until 5:30. So it's not like it was an accidental, I didn't see, because everybody else went home. So it's willful. That's what's very frustrating about it.
Yeah, so it seems like the machinery needs to kind of be shutting down before the deadline, like shutting down and parking or being put away sometime before 5.
That would be fine if they turn the key off at 5. It's just, they just push it.
I also think there's a general aversion to calling the police for this. It's just, I think we all have voiced, we collectively respect what those people do, and to call for loud equipment, just as the gentleman earlier said, it's uncomfortable,
Well, and you wonder how many times do they actually get there in time before the equipment's shut off?
Right. And my wife, she said, well, somebody else will call, or I'll wait till 5:15, or, well, it's Saturday, they probably have other things to do, that's just how we,
Right. I mean, I think, obviously as a group, you're becoming more and more organized, and I think that's important. I think we can raise these issues with the town administrator and Chief Alfano, that, the residents are feeling bad about calling, but also they're getting this mixed message of, can you wait and call at 15:45? and then the person, the policeman shows up 15 minutes later and there's nothing to see. So it's just, how do we solve that problem?
Does it have to be, I mean, what's the rules? Does it have to be only the police or the?
It can be the zoning enforcement officer as well, but because Mike has those limited hours, it's easier.
What are his hours?
He has office hours, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday from 8 to 9 in the morning.
Could it be you?
That's
Or one of us.
Can we witness it?
I think the Board of Selectmen would need to appoint someone, possibly. I would have to look into it, but I
Could
think
he
that's
point,
probably.
like, the entire-
Like a whole posse?
I live right in the middle of the neighborhood, I'll do it.
For $100, I could
John-
put a
John has
camera
a
up in my
good-
backyard and record the whole thing.
Yeah, so-
Music on all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, John
I have an
has a
idea that
good
might
idea.
kind of address the money thing, because I agree, at this point, from what we have seen as well, it doesn't seem to be enough just to make new rules. If we had him pay for a detail to be on site, say an hour before, an hour after, or half an hour before, half an hour after, with also the authority to write those tickets, so they're on site, no one has to call the police, he pays for the details, so the town doesn't. You're not uncomfortable, and there's someone on site responsible for saying, dude, it's $5.15, here's a ticket.
Best idea tonight.
Awesome.
As well as it may help address the school bus issue.
Yeah.
But can you tell me, is the planning board, are you looking, what, are we gonna stop Sundays? We're gonna stop Saturday till noontime? What is this board
Well,
going to do?
we're sitting here right now addressing that with
Yeah,
this.
but I wanna know, I mean, have you made the decision? Sundays, to me, that's why we have weekends, It's the day of rest, at least Sunday.
yep,
So
so,
I think our intention is to
Sunday comes off.
get rid of Sunday and holidays per this document that Jonathan read earlier. And I think also we kind of addressed that the next time, the next meeting, if his attorney's not here, he doesn't have a say in it. And we're going to address this and get a vote on it next time when he has representation here. So there is full intention to address it, and as Jonathan mentioned, this was established in 2007. Most of this board wasn't assembled at that time, so we are certainly trying to expedite this and keep your feelings and your experiences in mind.
Is it fair to ask the board what could he possibly say to change the opinion of the board? I mean, is it, to me, just he gets another month or two or whatever it is, operating as such when
Or would we
the sentiment in the room
continue
seems
for
to
2
be.
weeks from now, or?
It would be continued for 2 weeks from now. So it would be November 19th that they'd make the decision.
so Erica, do you know if any fines have been issued?
We're trying to figure it out.
I don't know that I should have followed up with the police department on that. So
And
I
what
will
is the
find out.
fine? How much is?
So per our bylaw, we can charge $300 a fine,
Okay.
or
So,
we could do a cease and desist. That's another
That's
option.
what is the cease and desist?
Basically a stop work order type of
Stop
thing.
work order.
Yeah.
Is that based on a certain number of fines, or is that based on the board
Sir,
recommendation?
can you just raise your hand just to keep it?
I'm sorry. Stephen Garner, 42 Spectacle Hill Road.
No, just,
My question is, sir, is the fines based on, before you can do a cease and desist order, X number of times?
There's no parameters
All
for
right.
it. I think it's based on how the board wants to handle it and how the zoning
Okay.
enforcement officer,
Thank
because he's the one that technically would be issuing it, so he would have to
Just
have
to,
a say.
he had a question about, can they say anything, I'm sorry, so Ray?
Yes.
Yeah. Ray had a question, can their attorney do anything about if we vote and say, this is good for us, and we say, all in favor, aye, and all that stuff? Can they do anything?
it's just due process where they get to listen to the discussion, they get to respond, and then we vote.
But it comes down to us, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, so we
Two
make
options.
Well, he was asking what could they say that would change our mind. We're just giving him the option to speak.
Hi, Linda Crabtree, 60 Spectacle Hill. So, there's a bunch of us that are so serious about this as backup. Here's petitions. I sent out 40 petitions out of Spectacle Hill. There's half of them came back. So just so you know, that's backup to know how serious we are about this. Thank you.
What is the petition? Can we see it?
Yeah,
It's a
actually-
petition that was written up, yeah, there's a cover letter and then the actual petition, and the petition is to stop construction activity on Sundays and holidays.
What about Saturdays?
Well, if you guys want to go for Saturday, man, we're
Well, I
all
was just
for
saying,
it. But we started at Sundays and holidays because that was what was discussed at the last meeting. And Erica gave a great suggestion to say, a petition would really help in this. And so we said, okay, and we made it happen. So that's what that was, is to stop for Sundays and
Because
holidays.
we're saying, we're reducing it 1 hour on Saturday to 4.
Correct. But
Yeah,
this,
so-
that was something that was
Along with no
totally-
Sundays and holidays.
Yeah, Sundays and holidays. And the other thing I would like to add to that is, you know what, the holidays are coming up. I don't want to hear their shit on Sunday and on the holidays. I don't want to hear it. We've got family time. I want to be able to have peace and quiet in my own home. So I ask that this decision is made as soon as possible because Thanksgiving is right around the corner.
Certainly, and I think as part of the condition, we should specify which holidays we're talking about.
All
So it's very clear.
State holidays.
State holidays,
State holidays, okay.
recognized holidays.
Tuesday.
So National Donut Day, no, but Veterans Day, yes.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
When's our next meeting?
It's the 19th.
Thank you.
Dan Sweeney, 78 Century Mill Road. I would make a suggestion, if you're going to try to rein this man under control, $300 isn't gonna do it. That's, no offense, that's just chump change for the scale of this project. You should really be looking at $500 to $1,000, but more importantly, I'd like to cease and desist where there's some mechanism that you now have to control him and say, okay, yeah, we're gonna let you start again, however, here are the consequences. I think $300, you're,
That's real.
I mean, it's a lot of money probably for all of us,
I agree with
but
that.
when you're in this scale of this job, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. $300 a day, really doesn't.
That's
really
in the
add up.
bylaws or it's
That
rules
could
and
be
regulations?
$300 in the morning and $300 in the afternoon.
Well,
so-
fine, as long as you pointed out to the gentleman that there are financial consequences. But I think the cease and desist, time is money for sure, and this is what this man is up against.
Yep.
I'm Katie Baker, Chris Baker's wife. We own the lot in Century Mills that he put the foundation on. But just to go back to that point about fines, so you had a conservation meeting, last night, and his attorney went to that. They decided not to come to this, because that's important to them, because they need to get their permits to move along with the next phase, or, I know they're having problems. So for Andy, that's very important, but to hear what everyone has to say about noise, he doesn't care, I'm assuming. Unless it was, I'm gonna get a $1,000 fine, I guarantee he would be here with his attorney, but otherwise.
Or if he held up his permitting, that would be something else.
Well,
You gotta-
I mean-
he's gotta get dirty with this guy.
When we agreed to continue it, we didn't realize he was going to be showing up to a meeting the day before, so.
I hate to interrupt for just a moment, Jonathan, it's 8:15, I just realized, and we had a hearing at 8 o'clock, so we should open that hearing and continue it to after this business is finished. This is the one for Bolton Office Park.
Okay.
Are they here?
He's not coming tonight.
So we have a hearing, it's a continuation of our hearing for an office park. It's the proposal for a assisted living facility. And do we have a motion to, what are you saying there?
Motion to continue the hearing till after the current business is finished.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue that hearing until after the current business is finished.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any against? Back to Century Mill, so let's try and get down to our last comments, sir, in the back corner.
So, my name is Martin Can at 182 Century Mill Road. I see no reason why this should be allowed on Saturday for a weekend. I think that's a mistake. And two, there should be a definition of start and stop to include all the setup and tear down of what's gonna happen that day. And if it isn't spelled out, it isn't gonna happen.
Well, it says, for this condition, construction activities shall include, but not be limited to, startup of equipment or machinery, delivery of building materials and supplies, then removal of trees, construction, blah, blah, blah. So I would say that includes,
And what about the end of the day?
well, it's, both.
So it covers both, so he's just
Yeah.
violating it now.
Correct.
Yeah, so if he's out there with trucks, which I would consider equipment or machinery, I mean, that's violating it.
Idling trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And one historical point, has anyone gone back to look at when the original point was made to him and granted, meaning, was there discussion at that point in time as to what should be allowed or shouldn't be allowed? I'm trying to think of this from his perspective, that he's going to take this on as an item of concern. What he'll have as reference is what happened when it was passed originally. Was there a discussion?
It was listed in the conditions of the special permit originally, and by his own repeated admission that I'm sure everyone has heard, he's been doing construction for decades. He has built half of eastern Massachusetts. He should know what construction equipment, or construction activity entails. So if he brings that up, I'll say, Andy, this is something that you agreed to. If you had questions about this, as you had questions about other things, you should have brought it up at the time. This is pretty clear cut to me. It says, equipment is running. Is equipment on or is equipment off? If you've been doing construction this long, you should be able to tell the difference from 100 yards.
Was there
I
any
don't think it's
discussion originally on the weekend?
Well, the construction activity, you know, it was just a blanket statement for all the period of time that he was allowed to do it. I don't remember any differentiation between what he can do during the week versus
That's what I was
weekends.
wondering, if the note said something, that if this specifically came up, was discussed, and it was granted to him.
Yeah, so that is in the original contract, the rules and regulations. So it's 8 a.m., 7 a.m. on Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. So,
Yeah, but I know it's in the contract, that's not my question. My question was, did that come up at the board? Was there a discussion amongst the abutters on that, on those times on the weekend?
that's
Do
a
you know?
very long time ago. I wasn't on the board.
But there should be records, right?
I think that actually derived from the rules and regulations that we have in place just generically.
I see.
So,
Well, anyway, enough said. From my point of view, I'd kill off the weekend.
yeah, so there was probably a discussion and maybe people didn't have, I'm both on the board and the butters didn't have any idea that it would be like this. And so they went with the kind of the standard hours of operations in Bolton's bylaws. And so that's one of the things we're looking at for future developments as well as just for Century Mill because of your complaints and also one that before that. Sir? I haven't heard from you.
My name is Michael Kane. I live at 56 Century Mill Road. Unfortunately, I'm only in a butter to and a butter, but noise doesn't recognize those limitations at all. I want to echo a sentiment that a few others have posed here. I don't understand even allowing Saturdays. I'm very familiar with construction. I know to get a construction project done on a timely basis, you either take advantage of all the days you can, or you add manpower and resources to get it done. I don't understand why this has to be a Monday to Saturday, let alone a Monday to Sunday operation. This project could be worked on Monday through Friday just by adding resources. The noise is already happening in that particular time frame. That's a time frame that we all can accept as a standard for business.
So, oh, sorry, you continue.
The second comment I want to make is just very simple. I don't understand also why this is getting dragged out. It was reported in a local newspaper not too long ago, I think I have this correct, that someone made a comment that Bolton is not a 24-hour town. I would also submit it's not a 7-day-a-week town in that same spirit. I don't think it's even a 6-day-a-week town. I did sign the petition because I think any reduction in time is beneficial. But I would ask the board to consider that this does not have to go beyond Monday through Friday. The developer can add more resources to get the project done on a Monday to Friday basis. Thank you.
Yes, I was just gonna say that Erica did some research on surrounding towns, and, you know, every town's is a little bit different, but I'm looking at Foxborough does 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturdays by special approval only, and then no Sunday and holidays. So, I mean, I don't know, I mean, you'd have to weigh, do you want maybe just really focusing on Monday through Friday? The Saturdays by special approval is something that I saw a couple of towns did, so there's definitely different options that can be done.
Yeah,
If I could just follow up, remember, I think your primary consideration should be to all the abutters, to the people who made the effort to be here. Because, as one person pointed out, holidays are coming up and so on too. This is not an issue that just came up last week or the week before. And I think it's really up to the planning board to address it head-on for the sake of all of us who expect something in this town in exchange for the quality of life that we do pay for through real estate taxes and so on. I do think your first consideration has to be to the residents of this town.
quality of life is a big issue. I think it's very important. I agree that there are developers who are organized and know how to marshal their forces. And, my experience of Andy is that he's not that guy. So you get a lot of excuses and, this type of behavior.
So it's not gonna pass the 19th. We're voting on the 19th. And it's pretty hard to, if you're working on a Sunday when you're not supposed to, it's pretty hard to, hide that.
So Erica has said that she has talked to Chief Alfano, that every time you call and he's found working, it is $300. So, you're part of that group. You have to make those calls for that we're gonna work on that mechanism, try and tighten it up and find out if there are other ways to make it work better, whether it's John's suggestion to have somebody on site that Andy pays for. We're gonna look at that, but you guys have to be the tattletales, and that's just, you're very organized and you just have to make that effort. It's important. Let's try and wind it down to last comments, sir.
Just a comment, a clarification on the terminology that's been used this evening. And again, I'm like right next to him, I can reach out and touch him. I'm not talking about noise as an abutter. What I'm talking about is what several of the people said earlier, and I just want to get a clarification on the term. It's operating outside the current hours of operation. He's non-conforming. You got plenty of messages about Saturday and Sunday, but I just want to be specific. I believe the planning board should address Mr. Andrew Bendenson, Century Mills, operation outside the current operating hours, and enforcement, a plan to enforce what somebody 5 years ago signed off on to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Last comment?
Why are they being given another chance for another meeting in 2 weeks because they defaulted tonight? Why are they given another chance? Because this has been going on for so long, so I'm wondering why they were given, like they're running the meeting.
Well,
So I'm just asking.
Well, so 2 weeks ago, we were set to have this meeting, and Alan Shockett had a heart attack. I don't know what severity. So that, that was canceled and rescheduled for this one. So this week, we expected him to be recuperating, but to our surprise, we find out that he did attend the Conservation Commission meeting last night. So I just discovered that.
As did I.
Also, but today, this was the first official hearing on it. So it's not like we had another hearing and continued. This was the first. I think everybody got letters about the 5th. So we were just trying to be, maybe we were trying to be too nice by,
This was the first,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean,
It'd be that nice to be
I
responsible.
don't think it's nice, it's diplomatic.
Yeah.
Give him the chance to show up. We'll give him one chance.
Yeah.
He doesn't show up at the next meeting, we'll close the hearing. I think that's the
Okay.
idea.
I think we're closing
I
it.
think we
and
gotta be
I-
somewhat diplomatic
thank
and
you.
somewhat democratic.
But also Erica has to publish the notice for the hearing within a certain amount
Yeah.
of time. So it's kind of this bureaucratic process. I would
This won't
ask,
be belabored.
I will ask you, as a group, have you talked to the town administrator? Have you talked to the Board of Selectmen about this?
Yes.
I called
Okay.
cops
Great.
at
Good.
5:02.
Because, if we were to vote to stop work, we'd need a lot of support. So it's just important that everybody knows what's going on and is on the same page. Yeah.
Will they see a copy of the petition? The Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, and...
Yeah, I will make
Yeah.
sure to talk to Don tomorrow, Don Lowe, our town administrator. I'll show him the petition. And I will also, what's important too, is the zoning enforcement officer on Monday, first thing Monday, he'll see that.
So, I just suggest with Mike, that, it sounds like his hours, I know they're set, but maybe instead of having office hours, he could go
What I
out to
can
the
do is,
site. on
yeah,
one
I'll
or
see
two of
if,
those 3 days.
I'll see if he can possibly attend maybe one of our weekly construction meetings, and I'll see if Mike can also call Andy and just reinforce the fact that this isn't gonna fly anymore,
But also, if he could get out on the site at, maybe once or twice a week and check, it's at 7 in the morning.
I'll check with him. I know his schedule's pretty tight, but
It seems important.
I'm gonna research John's suggestion about a
So it
detail.
would be like having the town engineer, somebody that Andy pays for
Right,
to.
right.
But it's somebody with the authority to fine him.
I think it can be just the police officer, in our
Okay, so
subdivision.
he'd pay for
Yeah,
an
it's,
off-duty police officer to.
yeah, per our subdivision.
Well, there's a request for us to also look
Act in that capacity?
I think potentially if the Board of Selectmen,
I mean, I don't think it needs to be
elect him.
somebody who physically is finding him at the time. It's somebody out there who can be the eyes and the ears if the neighbors are uncomfortable doing so. Fred's there often. Fred is being paid to be there often. It might make some sense. I mean, he's there several days a week. To have him schedule his hours at 4:30,
But it also could be like somebody like, a police officer that's off-duty that directs traffic, kind of that type of situation, who's showing up, at the, 2 times a day and maybe 4 times a day with the school bus.
Plus, I don't know that I wanna, Fred's there to observe and do oversight with the construction. I don't know if I wanna be mixing in him enforcing,
Okay.
so.
Erica, is there any way we can find out, and I can help look it up too, but precedents on those that have participated in a fine program for developers, to what extent those fines stop and the cease and desist starts? Like, has the town gone to 10 fines or 5 fines?
I think that's a question for town council, so I'll reach out to them.
Do we have any Bolton police officers living in the neighborhood? I mean, that would be
I don't
very
think
convenient. Okay.
This gentleman's
I just
probably
had,
capable.
well, I just had a question. Who is Fred? Who's the oversight on this?
Fred Hamway is he's the consulting engineer, he represents the town
Okay.
and the planning board.
Okay,
So he goes out to make sure the roads are being constructed,
okay.
it's just the proper specifications, those types of
And
things.
who does the oversight on the permitting? Is there somebody that approves that for him?
Well, he sends his reports in, and then Erica, is also attending those meetings,
Yeah,
and
so-
we review the reports as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I, along with the conservation administrator and the town administrator, attend weekly construction meetings where we look at the site and make sure that, because primarily we're concerned about the roads and the drainage, because eventually we're gonna be taking those over.
Are
So-
those open to the public, or is that just for you guys to go to? Because this is kind of a side thing, I don't want to get in the weeds, but he's got a no trespass, we have a no trespass against him. He continues to use our lot to cut through it and do upgrades on it. So I would like to know who
I
I'm
would
talking to.
recommend that you put up fencing. It's your property.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend doing.
Okay, last brief comments, sir?
Mark Cann, Century Mill Road, 182. So I signed the petition also, and I didn't amend it to, it happened to include Saturday, but it went through my mind. So the fact that you have that, you get a sense from the people here that we just as soon short out Saturday, if that can be done, as opposed to just what we asked for earlier. The behavior warrants that. So that would be very useful. And I think your comment on parsing your response to Andy in the way of, here's the existing regs, and you're already violating them, and now the next thing.
3 years.
That I think is very helpful, because it doesn't confuse the issue. He's outside the bands that were already limited, supposedly.
And last
I just had a question. The school bus has gotten kind of lost in this whole thing, and what's the next? Because that was very concerning, very troubling to hear about that. And I know I can appreciate, I don't live in the area, Terry of Delia and Vaughn Hill, but, and I can appreciate the problem with the noise, definitely, but I'm curious, what's the next step that needs to have to be done on the school bus? Besides this,
I think
that would be the solution, would be having somebody pay, that he would pay somebody to be there to.
So are these students from Century Mill and from Spectacle Hill?
No.
No, just the bottom of Mill Pond is all Century Mill, but there's other stops shortly thereafter on Spectacle Hill, and there's another stop up the road. My daughter plays a little girl on South Bolton Road, or on, I'm trying to think of the number. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's basically where South Bolton turns, if you're coming from the Stowe side. It turns, there's another stop there, and that stop's definitely affected as well.
So how many children are at your bus stop?
7.
7.
Is there, so buses aren't allowed on private roads, would there be a safer spot further back if it was allowed?
We asked, is it easy, come in the development, there's a cul-de-sac to turn around in.
They won't do it?
They won't do it. So-
Put on that cul-de-sac would be a lot safer.
Yeah, it's a lot more room.
Yeah,
Spec Hill is very narrow.
yeah.
Is there anything,
It's worth
can we
noting.
push that, or is it just like a hard and fast
If you
rule?
could just, what happened with
The
the
school.
Woods?
My recollection on that was they needed mail service, which wasn't being provided because it wasn't town roads. So, or at least originally, everyone had their mailboxes down at the end of the road. But the post office was amenable to actually going up. I think the school committee or superintendent, whomever it was in charge, was pretty adamant about that. There's some sort of liability issues because the town's not maintaining the road, so come winter time, yada yada,
So
they don't do it.
they didn't budge on that.
Erica, could we contact him directly, so it's not like a secondhand information? Could we?
I can contact the superintendent. I think he's gonna say.
I have an email from him stating that. That helps.
Yeah.
I think it's also worth noting, there's 4 or 5 toddlers that will soon be in kindergarten and on the school bus. And obviously, as stated before, houses going up every day with kids moving in. So
It's a growing issue.
So it's either that there's somebody there or that we're considering that
it's still large
there's no
vehicles.
activity.
These aren't, dump trucks that drop mulch in your yard every spring when you get to clean up your yard. These are 18-wheeler, huge,
I'll see what I can do
vehicles.
both. I mean, if I have a child that's going to be going into Florence Sawyer, I don't want anything other than the toys he plays with in terms of trucks anywhere near during that time, so I think it's pretty reasonable.
Great. Well, thank you all for coming. I think we're going to close the hearing.
Thank you.
So we'll continue the hearing.
So we'll continue the hearing to November 19th at 7:45 p.m. in this room.
I'll make a motion to continue this hearing
To fill out a petition.
November 19th,
Just volume of what
7:45
we're
PM.
doing. This is gonna be done.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I coach John.
Yeah, we ended up,
Another petition was already here. And signed, yeah, I gave it all to them. How many people signed it? About 20. About 40.
sold our house. She was getting the plan on it. She wanted to swap it. She kept asking that. This lot plan, basically said, yes, we're ready to go in August.
One more week, you just take recuse yourself. I think that was able to do one way review. Because the last time with the foundation, there you go.
I wasn't on the board.
There was a foundation there, which was not the house.
My kids,
Brother next door. His brother wanted to buy it, so that was the buyer.
To allow the paving.
The house next to us, it was his brother. His brother wanted to.
Oh, she said that.
I've got
And we already made that.
Yeah, it's just,
This whole time, you haven't produced a lot. After now.
But they're not yet.
so we're gonna
Go over her bullet list or something.
so now we're,
It's
what's
kind
the
of
wording for reverting?
Yeah, this whole thing, do we, agree to swap it?
Can you guys take your interview
Okay,
out?
so what are you gonna do next, may I ask?
So we're talking about Bolton Office Park.
Okay. I basically get it out.
But it's,
I have board of selectmen.
Okay, so, we have an A&R, but it has,
The weekend would probably be better.
it's on the schedule, but it actually has to go, not to us, but to the zoning board of appeals. After Erica checked on it, it was about modifying lot lines with their pre-existing non-conforming lots. So anyway, so we're just gonna pass over that. So now we are back to our continuation of our hearing on Bolton Office Park.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would you mind with
I'm not allowed to close that door.
No.
Card.
Thank you, John.
So Bolton Office Park's application for a assisted living facility. They're proposing to subdivide their land. So Mark Dibb is not here, the engineer from Condyne. I think they're kind of, it seems like they're in a holding pattern. They do not have an operator. So I would say their application is like between 60 and 70% finished. That's my personal opinion. So they're just kind of in a holding pattern, I would say, but I don't know how you would.
Didn't you say at one point they need like a special permit before they can get an operator, or?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what he said.
Decision of need from the state before they move forward. That's pretty prudent, I think, that they're holding off. Find an operator first, try and determine what type of facility they're going to.
But are they holding
That's going to
up?
answer a lot of questions that we.
But are they holding off on some of our requests because they don't have an
I
operator?
think Mark has said that he's waiting, in an email to you, said he's waiting for the design review board to get back.
Okay.
So, but there are kind of two ways to go. One is we grant the special permit with a lot of very specific conditions, but conditions are harder to enforce than having the actual plans and the special permit. The other option would be to endorse the use as shown in the plans, like the planning board votes to give our endorsement, but we hold off on the special permit until they, complete the application process.
What supports that? Like, what's the process, the endorsement, like the endorsement?
Which
of
just,
these?
we're saying, we
like
we do some nice words that say, we like this use in this spot, what we've seen so far, we approve, but they're,
So something they can present to an operator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, the planning board is behind this.
I'd support that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, I don't know if we want to wait to vote on that or kind of vote on that now. I
So
don't know what's going to
I guess
help.
I need to better understand how that would work. So the idea is that we, or the board, would keep continuing the hearing until they find an operator, and then once they find an operator, then the last minute detail stuff can get worked out, and then you issue the special permit?
Yeah.
That's the idea, so,
Well, it sounded like some of our, your list of questions here, it sounded like, they needed an operator to finalize them. That's the impression I got.
It just doesn't seem like the design review board can really do their process without, a complete application. It's going to be hard for us. We could put a lot of conditions in, but then.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I'd rather not. I think that's messy.
Yeah.
So
What benefit is the endorsement so that they can go out and market an operator and say, we
so they
support the general support of the town? I think that's.
I think we all support the project. We feel good about it, but they're just like a few more things that they need to draft up in a plan or specify, and so. So I think that's a great idea to endorse what they've done.
I'm just curious if an operator would go for that though, because they don't technically have an approval. So at the end of the day, the board could still say, well, what, you're not meeting our bylaws, so we're not giving you the special permit.
I know, but that would go for any franchise or any business could say, we're not coming in unless you have it pre-approved. And so they're trying to get around
That
the
circumvents,
special permit
that
process.
circumvents DRB too much, I think.
I just,
I think there are ways to write the conditions, though, that could provide some enforcement, I could see if we could write something to the effect that, they have to meet with design review board, and the design review board has to sign off on their design before they get a building permit, that kind of thing, until the next permit can be issued. It's one idea.
They could make that case that they can't get an operator without the special permit, but I think, we did Clinton Savings Bank, they did submit a complete application. It was very thorough. This is the second process we're going through with this new design review board process, and I think it's important that they, do the same thing that we required of Clinton Savings Bank, be as specific. And I think this is the process going forward, and there are a lot, it seems like there are a lot of projects coming up on the horizon. There's the potential, there's the little house by the on-ramp. Somebody's interested in that. There's talk about the little white house next to Country Covered and doing possibly doing the overlay there. So there are a lot of things coming up, and I think it's just important that we,
Yeah, I don't want to get into the precedence of, special permits on this condition or that condition. It just gets messy, I think.
yeah, I think it does get messy, it gets a little bit out of our control.
I'm just curious if other towns have done it that way before. I have a magic meeting tomorrow, and I can ask the other town planners at that meeting, what their thoughts are on that process. I'm just curious, because when I had mentioned it
Yeah.
to other town employees, they seemed very hesitant to do that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the consultants at MAPC who worked on the design review guidelines, and they said, that they proposed, endorsing it and until they get an operator. I think businesses want to come to Bolton. I mean, the traffic, the traffic and the possibility of customers and things is like undeniable. So, it's just, do we want to kind of hold to, the process?
Maybe we should just kind of list out the items that we feel can't be answered at this point then. That is, why we're saying that we should be holding off on
Well,
making a decision. Just so that so that it's clear.
What I worry about is that the design review board's feeling like, okay, we have to do a report even though they don't have all the information.
Right. I went to the design review board meeting that they initially had, and overall, they were actually very generally happy with the project. I mean, the things that they were looking for moving forward are things that are not, I don't think, all that important in a sense to the use. I mean, it's about the color of, the clapboard, the shingle, or the, are they using the size of the windows, the material for the roofing, like that to me is somewhat more superficial. So I don't know.
But also in Mark Dibb's responses, to your list of outstanding items, some he's working with us and others he's just like stopped working on them.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, it seems like they're in a holding pattern, and I don't think they're waiting for us. I think they're waiting for an operator too. So they want to tailor the project to an operator. So I think we should wait till there's an operator, but endorse it, the way it, what they've shown us now.
Do you feel pressure from the applicant or from somebody that
No,
would put?
not at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay.
But, yeah, so it's, I'm pro-business, and I think, the consensus from all the surveys related to the master plan, related to the overlay, like the majority view is people do want business in these places, but they want it to be for Bolton, to serve Bolton residents predominantly, and that it has like the scale and feeling of the town of Bolton. So that's, and that's what I think the design review guidelines were put in place to ensure.
Yeah, we would definitely be undercutting it, I think, if.
My biggest concern along those lines is what type of facility is it going to be? And that plays into part a little bit with the operator. Is it, and I'm not saying one is bad or one is good, but it shows a different flair for this property. Is it a skilled nursing facility? Is it an assisted living facility? Is it an independent living facility? They're all very, very different. I don't have a bias towards or against one, but we've asked that question of Mark a couple of times. He's been very candid. We don't have an answer yet. We're thinking about operators. We're talking about it. To me, that's a pretty big subject too. If we're feeling pressure that we need to put in the end zone, that's one thing. If we're not, and he's kind of stepping back from the sidelines, I would endorse the idea.
Well, he's not here tonight. Jeff O'Neill isn't here tonight.
Okay.
They're not saying we want to vote on this. I mean, have they?
No, they've been very passive
Okay.
about this application.
So,
one of the things we talked about last time was those 10 parking spots up in the front.
15.
Sorry. Sorry.
We're in 15.
I don't know why number 10 was in my head.
I don't know why.
We were,
No.
we were talking about like legality and whose property is it, and does it get accomplished with an easement or a use agreement?
So there was a letter in here
Oh, good. That's it.
from
It was an email
From the operator?
Solutions.
Oh, good.
RCAP Solutions.
Oh,
But it's only the first step. I'm actually meeting with the manager of RCAP next week. So
First step is okay.
So that's, we
where
just need
is
to acknowledge the project. I had it here. It should have been one of the first items. Probably in the packet. This is yours.
Who's the writer? Linda Crowe?
Yeah, it's an email. So Erica wrote a letter and about,
Well, we spoke over the phone and I asked if she could just provide some type of written statement about where they stand on the parking. So that was basically her initial response. But we're gonna meet next week at the site to take a look at where the parking's going.
Can you read that?
Did you see this?
Yeah.
Then you won't like it.
so,
No, that's why I even think I wasn't gonna like it.
Dear Eric and Don, thank you for contacting me regarding the parking lot issue related to Bolton Country Manor and the Senior Center. As a nonprofit organization managing a low-income elderly property, we support any increase in affordable housing and related needs and resources for elderly and other at-need populations. So that's referring to this proposed development. We're more than willing to meet with you so that we may better understand the pending proposals and what role we may be able to play in the development or management. However, we do not have the resources to pay for the improvements or maintenance of additional parking spaces at the present time.
So it's the applicant's land, I know we hashed out some of this last time, but it's the applicant's land.
Yep, Condyne's land.
Condyne is offering to not give us the land, but grant us some sort of use of the land.
So I thought the easement would be going to the town, and the selectmen said that they can, pave it.
Well, that's kind of my question.
I've talked to Don Lowe about it and he basically said that, and I can confirm this with them, but the answer would be no to that we couldn't
Really?
accept the easement.
We couldn't
The
accept
town
it?
could not accept the easement from Condyne.
And
Why?
partly
Why?
because of
we
the
don't own.
indemnification as well, from, allowing for the indemnification.
So it's not a matter of the town doesn't own the facility. RCAP owns it, and that's kind of a third-party thing. It's more an issue, his hang-up is we don't want to pick up the indemnity.
And then there's the maintenance,
But we
question about
can't-
maintenance, and it's just not a road the town wants to
We can't
go
pave
down.
it or maintain it if it's not
Our property.
our property.
That was my big
But
question.
the selectman who's a lawyer said
What?
that he didn't see a problem with it? The
Yeah.
selectman who's a lawyer said.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
And I spoke to Larry since, and he said he may have hastily said that, so,
Got cut up in a moment.
the one option.
So,
that's-
yeah, so this, okay, yeah.
So it
Is
needs
there
to be
another
granted
option?
to the town.
Well, in talking with Larry, he kind of brought up a good point. Maybe, maybe we can address this at the next hearing. Maybe
Well,
Mullen Officeburg would be willing to sell, or donate the land to the town, and then that way.
So if the town owns it, it's town property, it's not really a third-party indemnification, it's like the town's parks.
It's just the
Somebody
town's,
getting hurt on the
exactly.
town's parks.
So that might be an option.
And then it's just, I shouldn't say just, it's a cost issue, comes up in town meetings, something like that.
Exactly.
Are we okay with the payment of the construction of the improvements and the maintenance in
Right.
perpetuity?
That's another avenue.
So,
Okay.
legality, so we're worried about the legality of what?
Slip and fall, and the town indemnifies, it pays out for the loss.
But
But if the town owns
But
it,
if it's town property, but if the town owns it, then it's
Slip
just
and
like
fall.
the parks,
Yeah.
that the
So
town also owns.
if you slip and fall,
Insurance the town has would pay.
what's the difference? That's what I'm saying, what's the
So
difference?
I'm thinking if the town doesn't owe it,
Indemnification of a
then our
third party,
insurance will cover it.
It gets a little hairy.
So then it would
What's-
come out of our free cash or whatever account. But if it's town property, then it's covered by our insurance carrier. That's my
That-
thinking.
Be the same as
what
some
it
other
means.
trips and falls.
So rather
on
than,
park.
okay, I fall at your house, but you didn't own your driveway, so now I sue you personally instead
I
of
didn't have
filing a
control
thing.
over his house. It's not my house. I can't clear the snow up because I have to trespass on. It all comes down to a use agreement and does somebody feel comfortable with the use agreement?
So-
If it's their own land, maybe, it's philosophies. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's cut and dry.
So it seems like they're the two options. One is that they give the land to the town. The other is that this RCAP Solutions is willing to
Accept the, well, I guess, I don't know if accept's the right word, but accept the easement.
Accept the
And allow
easement.
for the indemnification.
and then that there's some fund.
Yeah.
We would have to either raise the money, I guess, or,
So RCAP takes on the indemnity, Condon keeps the property, RCAP maintains it, but takes money from somebody else.
so
from
initially-
the town.
They already have
That's an idea, okay.
whatever, what's the difference if somebody slips in that spot or
That's
another
the point.
spot?
Yeah, I agree.
But so RCAP is contracting with Pat Carroll to plow it now?
Well, not to plow what they own,
Yeah,
but
right.
their
Yeah,
property.
Not the 15.
Not
their
the
property.
15, because they
Right.
don't,
Yep.
they don't exist, yeah.
Yep.
So I don't think the plowing's a huge piece, because if it's,
Well, it shouldn't be, but they're saying maintenance, improvements or maintenance, so,
yes, and I guess we get back,
yep, go ahead. It's a smaller group, we're gonna be a little less formal.
so Terry Abdalian, 62 Vaughn Hill Road, Friends of Bolton Seniors, etc. So my problem still gets back to the use of this building and what, it has a dual use. It houses 28 seniors in their home, it's their home, and it is also the Town of Bolton Senior Center for 3 days a week. And I still feel that we cannot just wipe our hands because things are difficult to negotiate of what the use of this building is and the purpose is for our seniors. We have 20% of our population is over the age of 60. We have now a new outreach person. The position's been there for a while, but we have a really dynamic outreach person that's now bringing more people in and solving issues. We have started just last week an activity coordinator who's going to be doing activities. Maybe not 100% at this facility because it's not open all the time, but this certainly is what the town has designated as the senior center and the seniors in Bolton recognize as their place. And if we, because life is difficult, they're just gonna wipe our hands and say, we can't do this?
Yeah, we're not.
I'm not, no, I know you're not, but but listen to the
Yeah,
sounds.
I know.
You may be all on the same page, you may be very sympathetic to the seniors in town, and to the needs of the seniors, and, because I think you've taken some time to educate yourselves, we're here and we're telling you, and you're listening. But a lot of people, it's just easier to say, gee, that's tough, we can't do it, or maybe I spoke too soon, or no, I didn't say I was gonna grade it, that's your problem now. I mean, we've gotta listen to, there's so many people
Yeah, no.
backing,
I hear
and they're
those
not,
voices.
and they're not here.
So, but how many members are there of your group?
Oh, we're a tiny group, we'd love to have more people come and join us.
No, I'm
We're
just
gonna-
saying, so we've seen, I think, you and Pat and.
Pat is not part of Friends of Bolton.
She
But
isn't.
So we have the Council on Aging, which is
Okay.
one group. We have the Friends of Bolton Seniors, which we're a small group, maybe there's 10 of us. I don't know, we do a lot of good work though.
Yeah.
And you have 1,000 plus seniors in town. Can we put something together? I mean, I don't know, if that's what's needed, we can try, but the
Well, it's not putting together the money, it's
No, or
putting
even-
together it's the politics and it's the communication of needs.
I mean, should they have to do that? I mean, this seems like it should be something that the
No,
town.
but that is politics,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. it's
Terry,
just
do you
tough.
plan on attending the Board of Selectmen meeting
Tomorrow night?
Because
Yes.
they're gonna be talking about site plan review for this project. I think that would be an ideal time. I can go too if you want, to talk about the need for this
we will
parking.
both be there. Yeah, we didn't,
Because I think the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen need to hear what you're saying to us.
And in that presentation, do we start at, sort of page 1 and review? I mean, I'll put it together in my mind, what the
Well,
process has been.
as far as site plan review, part of the advice that planning board is giving to Board of Selectmen, I've attached the letter that you had initially written, along with the letters.
Private-public partnership, that kind of didn't go anywhere though. Not that, anyway.
But they'll at least see those
Have that,
letters.
yeah.
So, yeah, so our first request was that, you know, to Condyne was that they construct this. Their response was, you know, this proposal where they're providing an easement, but they want indemnity and they want somebody else to build it. So that's where we are now. I also, you know, that is the ideal thing to get the parking there. It's just a no-brainer. But, you know, the backup would be, you know, there is that parking lot they're expanding, which is across the road.
That's not good. I mean, we'd have to go back to, I mean, I think that if, and I hate to even say this, please don't put it in the paper.
Off the record.
Off the record, that the better would be to use the parking lot that we have been using, which is across the grass, which you all saw, and put a walkway through. I don't know why that's such, I mean, that would be the, you know, not
Don't
at
wanna keep
all.
the distance, I guess.
Yeah, you know,
That's kind of like right by their front door.
not really.
It's not right by the front door.
To me, this letter from RCAP pretty much says,
No.
no, it says, pretty much says, you know, if there's some type of fund or something, you know, it looks like they're looking for money
Well,
to
the
do
town
it.
has money. I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe there's a way that we, you
But that
know.
indemnity thing's gonna be tough for them.
Yeah, but I don't understand the indemnity thing if they already have the other spots, RCAP already has the other spots, what's the difference of the 15? If we set up some type of fund.
A lot line.
Or insurance, again, insurance costs.
That's not good, man. Yeah, you can't insure something that you don't own.
I think,
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
the fact that the senior center is there
Mhm.
is, I mean, the senior center isn't there by right. It's, you know, it was originally just built as low-income.
No, it was originally,
seniors.
it was originally, when it was built as low-income housing, that was part of the stipulation. They were given the land, and because they were given the land,
And
that's what the
that
senior
was-
center.
Really?
Yeah.
That was part of the
That's
deal?
my understanding, right?
I believe so,
Yeah,
Okay, all right, then, I'm wrong.
yeah, and initially it was 2 days a week, and we pushed and got 3 days, and so
Okay.
that's where it stands now.
Good, thank you.
Maybe it is good to bring it tomorrow to the lawyer,
Work together.
to the lawyer types.
They may have more ideas than, you know.
It seems, to me, it seems like this is, it's gotta be a way to get it done.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it's like perfect, have those 15 spots right there.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Just get it
Look at
done.
Yeah.
Just make it happen somehow.
Who went originally for the tour with them? It was, did
I
you
was
look at
there.
it?
I
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah, and they were all on board then. It was their idea.
Yeah, I mean, that was the honeymoon period where everything was.
That was only 4 weeks ago.
Mark
right
was
after
like,
showing up.
everything was yes, and then, you know, then I think reality had to hit, and,
Yeah.
you know, and then we had that big performance where, you know, we were told that we didn't have the authority. You know, that was in front of Jeff O'Neill and Mark
Oh,
Dibb,
that was-
and I think that could have had an effect. So, you know, this is where we are now. But, you know, that's one of the items, we have to work out the parking, but there does need to be a B option. If we can't make this one work, we all agree it's ideal, but there has to be a B option where the parking is provided for within one of the lots that they are creating or expanding as part of.
Across the street is not, there's not a B option. Back to the lot, the other lot is.
Yeah, so
the only
there,
B option.
just,
I just
that's
wanna say,
something to look
Yeah, one other thing, we had Tuesday connections, I think, 2 Tuesdays ago, and a person that isn't political, one of the Council on Aging members, we were having the Council on Aging meeting was on Tuesday. Was that just yesterday? Yeah, okay. And she's not a political person at all, and she said, you know, for that Tuesday Connections, great program with witches, the witch came, anyway, 27 extra cars. Just to let you know, that those 15 spaces, that's how important. We're gonna have a Thanksgiving on November 18th. We serve a full meal, Friends of Bolton Seniors, full meal to seniors that come, and we're doing a cornucopia, lovely. The local cultural council is helping support it. We will have 40 people in that senior center. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm aware of your group. I know that things come up at town meeting related to your group.
Yes, they do.
So it's how you make that connection. So we'll keep fighting on our end for those 15 parking spaces. I think we all
You are,
think
yeah,
they're
we appreciate
important.
that support, thank you.
I mean, that's your big issue about the whole development.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think it's, I mean, I think it's good to be concerned about who the operator is and which direction they're going, and all of
I
that's
mean,
very important.
yeah, I mean, for everybody.
Many other concerns as well, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, for everybody at home, you've been using Bolton Office Park parking adjacent, and that's kind of where the new building is going, as well as kind of their front door and parking. I don't know if you have the plan, just right here. But.
I have an 11 by 17, I can grab the full size. There's two different ones. These are just more recent ones that he sent the other day.
So it's kind of right there is where you've been parking.
This might be a better one to look at.
So you've been, there's the manor. You guys have been basically parking.
Where's the manor? This is the manor. No.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Yes,
manor.
manor.
So this
So-
light line shows
Yeah.
the old parking.
We've been parking over here.
Yep.
And, yeah, I hear you.
So
But
this
here
is
is
their
not.
front door. I imagine they want this for, this is basically the closest parking for the facility. I mean, there is gonna be this, but you can see that most visitors, and they'll probably want the staff to park over here,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, and I mean, it really be nice if they had some parking. But just to say, my mother lives in an assisted living. Their estimates of people coming in and out, that's probably valid, but people parking there for a long time, I mean, maybe, I was just seeing my mother today, maybe if there's 8 cars, of visitors, employees can park over. But I'm not running their business, I appreciate it.
Yep.
I think the parking numbers are being driven by the office park and the potential for it to be fully leased.
Fully leased.
I think they need a lot of parking spots to fill, to be able to service the office building.
And they haven't said who's coming in, but they have indicated that it will be fully leased, or?
I think
I don't think fully. but
whoever
it-
one of their big tenants, that was there, that just recently left, they're gonna be able to fill half of that space that they occupied.
Okay.
I just talked to Mark actually the other day about this. I think they're about 48% full at this point. I think that's what he sent me.
I just may add one thing. Lisa Dion, Kettle Hill Road. I'm also the outreach coordinator at the Council on Aging. I just asked the board to really be sensitive to the population that we're talking about too. And when you think in terms of parking areas and where, you and I could go, that's one thing. But this population typically has, difficulty with ambulation. And I think we need to be sensitive to that when we think in terms of where their parking can be.
Yep.
And if this space is really going to be utilized by Bolton seniors, I think that, the spaces need to be in a desirable spot for them to actually have access to the building.
And just as one other thing, this is not the first time that we've had a conversation with the town, quite a few, about parking issues.
Yeah, man, I really feel there's only one option, which is those 15 spots, and we just gotta make it happen.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Like that.
so gather your, we've seen Pat here. Pat
Okay, let's see what we can get
Bensler,
tomorrow.
And we've seen, is it Panny Gherkin?
Panning, yeah.
So it's,
We can get Panny.
right, so it's, you can kind of share your experience with everybody, because we can only do our part.
Thank you, we will be there tomorrow. We'll see what we can get.
Thank you.
But there any other?
Just a few other updates. So Mark submitted his request to waive the traffic study. So I guess at the next hearing, when they're actually present, the board can vote whether or not to waive the traffic study. And if the board would like to ask for anything in lieu of that, that's valid.
How much is the traffic study? So like 10,000?
Generally, I would say it's closer, it's anywhere from, I'm gonna say it's more around 5,000.
5,000. How much would it be to pave or grade that,
Well, I
those
think,
spots?
Jonathan, you'd run the numbers.
I did a rough thing of like 15 to 20,000.
So trading the traffic study for the parking spots wouldn't probably work.
Well,
Should take into
there
consideration a peer review.
There could be a fund. Yeah, what is the peer review? I mean, I think, traffic studies are so hard because you just hear this like it's not gonna make a difference, but I feel like a traffic study with a peer review could be kind of important, just because, they're saying it's 160 trips a day.
And then 132 on weekends.
It doesn't kind of hit a certain threshold, but it just seems like it'd be nice to kind of hear what a traffic engineer has to say about that, instead of just being like, okay, it doesn't meet this threshold, let's just waive it, but let's...
I mean, we did see a traffic study, but that's another story.
My thoughts have evolved on this.
An evolving opinion.
We have a traffic problem. This will make it incrementally, whether nominally or in a big way, worse. Would we be in a position, if we found a traffic study, to say, yeah, this is a problem, and this is really going to exacerbate the problem? Would we, as a board, say we don't feel comfortable granting the permit for the construction?
It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be that, it would be, I'd just like to hear, is there a different configuration for the entry and exit that they might have, a little wider, or, is there kind of a merging lane, like a little one on their land? I don't know, just a way to tweak that.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay.
But I don't know, I'm not a traffic engineer, and then people say, well, we haven't hit the threshold, so it's just not even worth doing, but I just feel like maybe there's something we're not seeing, and they could just tweak it a little bit, not like put 4 lanes on 117, but is there something to do with the entrance and exit that could make it better? I don't know.
An argument, an argument for the traffic study would be, I don't know if it's necessarily the assisted living, but if they're only at 50% capacity of the office park, what does doubling that do? I don't know. Is that included? I don't know.
Yeah, so that's...
Part of your permitted use, I don't...
Yeah, that's true.
I see what you're saying, and it makes sense, but from...
you can't put that on the other one.
No.
Yeah, you can't put that on the new one, but...
Well, I think the traffic study is going to tell us there's a problem. It will get exacerbated a little bit. And I don't think it'll give advice as to how to fix it, because I don't think there is a way to fix it.
If they come up with the same numbers though, 20,000 trips, if they put 150, they're gonna say the same thing as the last one,
Well, I think it would be cheaper because they'd use the numbers from Clinton Savings Bank. Couldn't they do that? That they would...
Well, I think potentially what we can do too is use the traffic study from Clinton Savings Bank, use the numbers that were provided by Mark Dibb,
And
give that to a peer reviewer and say, okay, what do you think?
What does a peer review cost? A couple grand?
When I had requested quotes, it came in at, I think, $2,400.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good compromise. I don't know, it's a potential compromise. Are we allowed to use the number, to Clinton Savings Bank? Do they have to grant us it? Or?
I assume it's a public document, so I don't see why we couldn't use it.
I think I'd rather build 3 parking spots.
Well,
I just don't, I don't know what
if you wanted to set up the fund...
I know. No, I think the indemnity and use and ownership issue is paramount in that whole conversation. How can it legally work to get these people, the various people, comfortable? the owner of the HUD building and
Well,
the
I
applicant.
think we just have to find out from the town administrator, and
Yeah.
board of selectmen, what can they do?
I agree.
And if they can't do anything, then it comes back to us and,
Yeah.
Condyne and talking about other options, but.
Yeah, I agree. I think the legal issues are probably above us, selectmen and town council.
Did you raise the question when you saw Don, Erica, that about talking to town council about it?
Did I raise that question? I'm not sure.
That can come up tomorrow night.
Mhm. Yeah, okay.
I can't remember now.
I mean,
I may
I've
have.
heard, I think the town has said that before about,
Property.
we can't work on.
No,
I think I did ask that question, and I think he said at this point in time, he didn't want to spend the money to bring town council in, but
Okay, we'll just,
don't
it'll
quote
be
me
a
on
question.
that.
No, I won't.
I'm pretty sure I asked the question, but
Yeah, and so we can at least raise it tomorrow.
So maybe some loud voices tomorrow could change his opinion.
Yeah, I gotta go so I can get home. I'm not gonna call anybody at 9:15 anyway, so.
Is there anything else related? So, I think it would be good to tell the DRB that, I just don't want them rushing.
they're not rushing. I really don't
Okay.
think they're rushing. I wish they taped the DRB meetings because honestly,
I
at the
looked
end of
for it,
at
yeah.
the end of the meeting, they were overall pretty satisfied with the project.
Yeah, I was gonna watch it. I mean, if they're.
They were pretty happy.
If they're not gonna be taped, then I don't know. if, maybe one of us should start attending, taking turns.
No, actually,
Okay, just go.
I was just
She
gonna think maybe
goes,
Michelle
yeah.
Tuck wouldn't mind coming to our next meeting
Yeah,
and just
that'd be
talking
cool.
about
That'd
it.
be cool.
Yeah, because she's supposed to give the report anyway, so.
I'll see if she's available. Maybe she can come and talk about it.
Sure.
If that makes you guys feel
Yeah.
more comfortable.
Continue the hearing to,
Okay, there were some other things, but we can talk about it at the next hearing. if you'd
Okay.
like.
Well, you can just touch on them, what were they?
I had reached out to Park and Recreation about the continuing the sidewalk
Yep.
from Bolton Office Park to Clinton Savings Bank, and Joyce from Park and Recreation had sent back sort of a response. I don't know if you want to read it now
Yep.
or read it at the next hearing, but she basically just voiced her concerns.
She wants to do
Everyone
it.
wants to get home.
But she's in favor of the sidewalk.
She just doesn't want it to
Impact parking or
impact
access.
parking. So it's a very, again, a complicated
There's a
issue.
shops for porta potties, I think.
Yeah.
Very visible crossroad.
And then,
The section lot.
did everyone get a chance to read the advice for site plan review?
Yeah,
And everyone's okay with that, and I can
Yeah.
get it before the selectmen
yeah, I
tomorrow?
didn't have any additions.
Okay, because I did, state in there about waiving the traffic study and asking for money in lieu of, so I just want to make sure that we're still on the same page about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know that we discussed that specifically, money in the law.
I said the board, after some deliberation, is considering waiving this requirement in the event that the applicant agrees to provide a monetary donation to the town in lieu of the study.
It's for the bank.
No, it's for this. I don't think that we said that specifically. I think we were just talking if we were gonna waive it. I don't know that.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
I think what we talked about was that we're all in favor of that, making that connection
Yeah.
between Bolton Office Park and the bank. A design review board has said they think that's important. Mobility has said they think that's important.
Yeah.
I have that as another comment, so.
So,
I mean, so can we, I guess,
we can keep that kind of
I
more
know-
general. Like,
I mean, based on Larry's statement, I mean, what's our,
well,
it would be nice to have, but can we say that, can we say that we're not gonna, we'll cancel the traffic study if you give us X dollars? I mean, I don't know, can we do that?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
It does.
Yeah.
So the statements that Larry made to us, he is an attorney, but he's not town council.
Mhm.
If he has an opinion, he should vet it, send a memo around and send it to town council, and then, we'll process it. But for, I think he was kind of grandstanding. So we should be operating on what he said that night.
Well, no, I'm just bringing it up as a
Yeah,
point.
no, I mean, I think, I could go.
I'm not
for-
supporting his opinion,
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up.
No, it's good to bring it up, get it out in the open. I think, it might be great to, do the idea of doing the peer review. Peer review of the traffic information, requiring that's one option. The other would be, something in lieu of.
Because when you do read when you read the DRB and the special permit, I feel that we are within our rights to, at least bring that up as a potential, the connection.
It's all a negotiation.
Right.
And, in the end, the board votes on all of those things. It's not, we discuss it,
Yeah.
we vote on
Yeah.
each item, so.
I agree, yeah.
It's, that's where it's decided, so we discuss it and then vote. So I guess, I guess.
So are you okay with that statement, or do you want me to take it out?
So could you read it again?
I say the applicant is seeking a waiver for the submission of a traffic study as set forth in the special permit rules and regulations, and as required at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen under site plan approval in accordance with section 250-23 F4K1D of the code. The board, after some deliberation, is considering waiving this requirement in the event that the applicant agrees to provide a monetary donation to the town in lieu of the study.
That's fine.
I think it's fine.
It doesn't commit us to either. And we are able to negotiate based on that.
I mean, it sounds like a definite, do we want to say something like, potential or may, or?
It's definitely, it suggests this.
It's considering?
Yeah. So it gives us the option.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, well, the option would be nice, it's just that, I don't know if it should be like this for that, period. I don't know. Just, I guess how it's worded.
I mean, yeah, it's been, applicants have asked for waivers, and the board said, in lieu of that, can you do this? And that's happened.
It's pretty commonplace.
Well, so you said in lieu of that, can you do this?
In lieu of that, can you?
I didn't hear a can. A request.
Split hairs.
Well, it's always polite. Okay, so we ready to continue this hearing?
I believe so. So the next planning board meeting is November 19th, and
A good amount of time, probably after the other one.
should we give Century Mill a half hour, 45 minutes? I think a half hour is plenty, because we know what we want to do. I think the board wants, knows what they want to do.
This is really just for Andy, for them to give
be present.
their side.
So,
I
do you
think
want
a
to
half
set it
hour.
at 8:15?
Well, how long did this last one go?
Hour and 15 minutes.
People are gonna want to talk again.
I think 45 minutes.
But I think we heard everything we're gonna need to do, and it's really just for Andy.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
I bet that people would like to say the same thing as with him present.
Yeah,
How do we,
they'll
well,
have pickets, you'll see pickets.
that's kind of what I'm nervous about.
There are things that I think we need to address.
I would make a motion that we continue this hearing until our next planning board meeting, November 19th at 8:45.
We've already put
8:45.
No.
1 hour.
We can't deliberate outside.
7:30.
Okay.
Oh, do we have to give a time?
I have to, yeah, that's, so, it's 8:30.
8:30.
Okay?
That's not my motion.
So we'll amend it to
We
8:30.
always keep on running late. I think that would make some sense. 8:45.
So, that's an hour?
An hour.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
You
against?
watch.
Well, I'd rather have somebody else here to get yelled at than.
That's all the fun.
Oh, I know. They need to vent.
Well, it'll
See you
definitely,
tomorrow. Who's coming to
Okay.
dinner?
Thank you.
I can come tomorrow.
definitely should be a ratings getter.
We're gonna get a .5 share.
Just so you know, on the 19th, he's gonna be in Nashville, I'm gonna be in Las Vegas. I'm not on tour though. But we mentioned that to Erica, and we're gonna figure out, what means we need to conference in, because you need 4 people for the special permit, so at least one of us has to tell the
I would like to be here, because I feel very strongly about it.
So,
Well, no, I mean virtually too.
Why don't you guys just play here and broadcast it?
I'm going on the right. Sorry, my son kicked me in the face. You want to wrestle?
That's from your son? I thought you had dentist work or something.
Dude, look at this.
No.
So we're still in the meeting. We're still in the meeting, but if you can zoom in, the shot's cheap.
My son has a rifle.
Isn't he
2? He's almost 4. Oh, feels like hell. No, but I think that the residents deserve as much attention to this as possible on the Central Mill, so I'll be here virtually at least.
On the phone. So I've done that on an iPhone and it's excruciating.
I'm bringing an iMac and we are going to webcast it.
Okay. Oh, so
I actually don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'll
you FaceTime would be
You
great.
probably could FaceTime on my computer. I like to take notes, but maybe for that we could figure it out. If you want to FaceTime and if you want a conference call, that probably would work. Or
we'll figure it out. But yeah, I'll be here in some way.
So we just have to make sure that that's going to work.
She doesn't sleep.
Otherwise, it'll be
basis,
During the day.
is being on the phone good enough. Because if it isn't, then we won't bother with the whole shebang.
if they have to wait until after Thanksgiving,
Yeah, we
it's
don't
just
wanna
going to be
make that-
like a pressure cooker.
She likes 10 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Also, my question was, if I
That's when she's like,
How dare you
specific
on
thoughts,
vacation?
can I email them to you directly? Okay.
Yeah, so, if you can take the phone from your office or whatever and dial me up and stick me on the table or, however it works.
I've done it on the EDC, yeah, we did it.
it worked okay.
Yeah, it was fine. Was that with you or Jenny? Was
That
that
was
you?
with me.
I couldn't remember.
She knew about it, so.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe I told you.
No, I was here.
That's, it's a rule, take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
We do need to get the right phone. That would be a great thing to do.
Whatever phone you used, I could hear fine.
That was my office phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
I could hear it, it was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any ideas for articles for town meeting 2015?
Do you want to talk about special permit real quick?
Oh,
That was
what
before
is that?
I wanted to hand out a few things. I put together a checklist.
He's trying to skip ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'll make it
No,
quick.
no, this is great.
So moving forward, I don't want.
Is that sarcastic?
No, that is real. That's great you put this together. So,
I just think this will be helpful moving forward to make sure that we hit all the topics, and then if someone has a question about whether it's in your jurisdiction, you can just quote the code and say, well, according to 250 whatever, we're covering it,
so that's another one of the things, like, they don't even know what they're gonna do with fire suppression.
Right.
They're waiting for the operator.
Yeah, right.
And so if they're gonna use that existing fire pond, then that's one thing, or they're gonna like create a whole new system underground, that's like one big thing. but-
And then just one question I wanted to ask about the special permit process. What we did for Clinton Savings Bank was, and for the solar special permit, we closed the hearing, you guys took the vote, made your decision, and then I wrote the special permit, sent it to you. You guys reviewed it via email, and then I had to submit it to town clerk. Would it be better if we closed the hearing, then waited to have you make the decision, so that way we could sit down all together and draft the special permit, and then at the end, make your decision? I'm just putting it out there if that's,
You would have-
or if you like the way we're doing it
pre-draft
now. Or I just feel like we don't get to talk about the conditions all that much.
'Cause no
And there might be
committee
something
was.
that we didn't get to talk about in the hearing that might come up, and then,
Well, I mean, it just depends, like, with Clinton Savings Bank, it was like high pressure, and so it was hard to be thinking on your feet
Right.
about all the details, so it was useful for you to draft that up and then everybody to kind of edit that, after the fact, but I think it would be, just depend on, the applicant and the
okay, so we'll just
situation.
play it by ear then, how we want to do it.
I mean, did that seem okay? the way we did it, where
Yeah, and I know that, was that the one that I sent you a comment? I forget.
Yeah, yep.
it's
So, I
just
mean,
like
it
at
worked.
the end of the night, when we're kind of tired, it would be hard, but how did we used to do it?
Well, I think as the hearing processes roll on from meeting to meeting, people kind of get a sense of where things are going. When things are up or down voted, it's not really much of a surprise. So I think it would be possible to come up with a draft.
Pre-draft, yeah.
Not like set in stone, but this is more or less what the feeling of the board's going to be. Okay, we vote on it. All right, let's go over. All right, no, section 4 here. Let's change that a little bit, and then you can do a little bit of best of both worlds, so we can hash it out while it's still fresh, and then we can avoid the back and forth.
That works.
These aren't really a surprise to you when it comes time to draft,
No.
or when it comes time to vote. You've seen it coming.
Right.
Was that clear?
Yep, I think we're good to move on.
Here's the annual homework for you guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's November and I realized we probably should start talking about town meeting, so.
I wanted me to research.
I was here for the last one, but I didn't have any homework really.
Yeah, well,
Doug really had the only homework.
We usually started a little earlier actually, because I think everything will need to be in by like January, so, all right, you get such and such bylaw, you go out and research it, you come back with recommendations, you spend months talking about it, oh, you gotta get it done by January, 3 or whatever.
Cool.
That's how it goes every year.
I'm into it.
So, I mean, there's definitely on our agenda is the development rules and regulations. We haven't even waded into that.
Subdivision rules and
And
regs.
subdivisions.
No, the rules and regs aren't subject to any calendar. We
Right,
have to have a hearing to change it,
Yeah.
but we can do that at any time of the year, so that's,
So it'd just
Yeah.
be good to start doing that work, which is
Yep.
just kind of updating. I don't know how we divide that up.
You had like 20 or 30 points or more, didn't you?
Yeah, I have it, I included it again tonight, that was the
Oh.
last thing on the agenda, just to refresh ourselves that
Okay,
we need to
potential
update it.
articles. So,
I just got a question on number 14, boring. Is Harold Brown saying our rules and regs are boring? Because he's not wrong. I've had to read through these a couple of times. Over my tenure, taking a couple stabs at trying to come up with changes.
He may be asking that we do boards along where the roads are gonna be, so that we know the material. That's my guess, but I can follow up with them, yeah.
I like number 11. I had that thought a couple of years ago when I last went through here.
Yeah, definitely.
which one is number, where?
Add electronic copies whenever possible. I mean, it's 2014. We can do these.
And this is just me being kind of a new guy here, so I see all the changes that we want to make. How large is the document that we're changing so far as, is it considered a lot? And if it is a lot, does it make sense to explore an entire revamp?
Yeah.
And for that, it's only...
And half of that is the rules and regs, the other half is appendixes for different forms and stuff, but it's still...
But this is still
It's only 100 plus pages.
I
Right
think the whole
from
thing
scratch.
needs to be revamped. The forms seem old to me and.
She's saying yes, she's saying no.
I'm saying, I don't want to be part of that much work.
I don't mind doing it, it's just gonna take time, that's it.
Well, it's, so subdivision, like, we're talking about like CME, Sunset Ridge, stuff like that. I would be happy to do it with you. If you want to actually tackle this, because I experienced it, and they're experiencing it, it's a real pain in the ass when it doesn't go well. So,
I will suggest that you rely on the advice of an engineer for certain sections, because some of it is very, very technical.
I know one.
You know one? All right, good. You all set.
And at the end of the day, Hamway Engineering will review it as well,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, both you and Fred are engineers.
Yep.
So, I think we're in good hands.
So our first step, we only had that in PDF form, which I thought was crazy. So our first step was to get it into Word, and so now we're working on making sure that it actually reads the way that it was written.
So when they made that, they just...
I don't know where the original copy is. We
Wow.
just mainly had PDF.
It's probably in a wooden box upstairs.
It was probably typed out, to be honest with you.
You've all heard the story of the wooden box, like all the forms of like everything ever is in a little wooden box up in the clerk's office. You know, it's a literal box that you can pick up and carry. Nothing was even remotely 1980s technology. It's like, oh, all right, we gotta look it up for you and dump out the box, sift through it, kind of thing.
So whenever you end up doing that, you know, in terms of, are you parsing all these out, like saying you get 5?
No, this is just kind of lists that, I mean, I think the rules and regs, I think we could all kind of work on that.
So as far as the town meeting articles, I just kind of want to go through the list so that way I can start preparing, you know, getting them ready.
Okay.
And which ones we actually want to move forward this year. So last year we were talking about Aquifer Protection Overlay District. We want to work on that this year.
I don't think
Or
we
do
got
we not have
nearly
enough
enough
time?
information. I think we need to talk to like geologists. I mean, I don't think we have an informed opinion.
Well, I think all the land now is locked up that's in it, but if they build a solar facility on the rest of that sand pit, that's basically, you know, and then Fox Run is already developed. So I think,
Are you saying the concern is probably not as high or future?
I mean, I think there are some concerns about, you know, businesses that are, I guess, if you can talk to Carol and see if it seems.
Okay.
I mean, I know there's some concerns about, was it Brookside, or they're right up against. Bromfield, they're right up against the wetland, plus they're right over the aquifer.
Yeah.
That we all get our.
Well, I mean, just looking from the outside, I don't know what's going on over there.
So just ask Erica, I mean, Carol and the Conservation Commission if, you know.
The concern is that water use?
Well,
polluting the aquifer.
Basically, like from the master plan, they said that bank, like from the DPW site down to the wetlands, is like a sand deposit, so when rainwater hits there, it goes all the way down to the aquifer. Like unlike any other spot in town, water just goes, it's like this sand channel that takes it right to the aquifer. So basically, you know, anything you do over that, it's going right down to, I think, all of our wells, all of our drinking water. So just when, you know, I think when the master plan was done, and they said, oh, we should put more business by Bolton Orchards, you know, the consultants who were helping us were saying, no, you should leave that open. This is an important recharge area.
So it's about permeable space.
Yeah.
It's about paving over stuff.
It's about, you know, paving, and it's also about fertilizers and chemicals and sewage. It just could be, it could have, you know,
Who owns that land across from Bolton Orchards, across 110?
via that meadow.
Yeah.
That's a good question. That's like the last piece that's open.
Yeah, I heard rumors of things happening there every now and then, but I don't know. So I don't even know who owns it really.
Is that, let's look at our zoning.
I don't
Is
know that
that
that's a
zone
lot. I
business?
think that's pieces of the houses off of Nashua. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's.
No, but I'm talking, you know, I'm talking about the one kitty corner to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it looks like it.
But there's a house behind there, off of Nashua.
Where is it up
There's
there?
another one up in Nashua. Backyards come into both of those.
Across the road?
117 right
Across?
here, and it's 110,
Yeah.
oh, no,
Yeah.
right.
We're still
So this
River
would
Road.
be Bolton Orchard, so
Yeah,
there's no.
He's talking
markings
right
on
north
there.
of there.
Well, yeah,
Right north of where it says 117.
So.
I guess,
right there.
I guess south of one,
Yeah.
across from the brick house.
North of 117
Yeah.
or east of
Should be
State.
here, so.
So if it's white, it means it's residential, it's zone residential?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, the Bolton Flat area?
Yeah.
Isn't that conservation area?
I don't think across the street from Bolton Orchards is.
I think they're talking about just this immediate corner
Yeah.
here.
This guy. And I think it's this house.
No, but kitty corner to that too.
I don't
Do
think.
you think it's a phosphate
Well,
lot?
Suzuki Bolton Orchard's right
I don't
here,
know.
and this is,
That's
all white,
for that.
so. yeah,
I haven't heard of anything
where
going on,
business
so I don't
is
think
going
it's immediate, like you said. Although I guess you would want
over around there
to.
for. Right now they can put single-family houses at 2 acres a pop on there.
So we'll think about that one. The Jake break bylaw, I'm interested in that.
What is that again?
There's, yeah, go ahead.
I heard it today, it's great.
It's basically, yeah, it's, they're
Trump wants to slow down.
downshifting instead of using their brakes, but it's a special.
That's really just for Centuryville?
It sounds like
Oh,
an
no,
automatic
no.
fire weapon.
It's basically for, I think it's like all of 117, but especially from Lancaster to 495 is where it's really loud. So
So you hear it, yeah?
oh my God, it starts at 4:30 in the morning, blah, 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 blah.
Because they're slowing to stop at Wattaquatic or something? I don't know.
They're doing it all over, like, people think it might just be, where the speed limit goes down,
Yeah.
right at Harvard Road and Manor, but whenever they're going down the hill, like, when they're going down by Fox Run, you hear it, blah, 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 blah.
How would somebody know, like, if they're not, if they don't know Bolton's bylaws? So
Well, there would be a
There's
sign,
signs, yeah.
there'd be a sign, like,
is there?
No engine brake.
Do towns?
Yeah, no engine
Has,
brake.
is that, like, been done?
In towns before, oh, yeah, yeah.
I've seen it, like, at businesses, on the street, like, near a quarry or something, where it says, have
Or during
consideration for the
certain times,
neighborhood, don't use. So Erica said, well, maybe we could just put up a sign without passing a bylaw. I think there's some concern that, you have to allow them to use it in an emergency, to slow down. So I don't think, anybody's gonna be getting ticketed for using it in an emergency, but it's just kind of the pervasive use.
I don't have my CDL, but I don't understand why hitting the brake next to the gas wouldn't work just as well.
Worship brakes, this doesn't wear the brakes.
Yeah, they're just,
Yeah,
I mean,
so what?
they're
Where's
just
my
trying to
brakes too when I do it
save
in my car?
money.
They're doing a
Yeah,
lot of stuff.
I know somebody was complaining about that, about CME.
Yeah, that's where it first came up.
yeah.
Could you
So-
put that in the subdivision? Don't do that, and, I don't know.
So is that something we want to think about moving forward?
Is that any, I'd like to work on that, but does anybody think that's crazy?
No, I don't think that's crazy.
I mean, I think, some people might say it's just a 117 issue, but, basically you can hear it like a mile inland on both sides. It's like a pervasive.
So how do you enforce it, though?
I guess it becomes a bylaw and then there's signs and the police enforce it. That would be what I would.
I'm not sure, I mean, I can look into it and see how it would be enforced. I assume the same thing, but
You sound passionate about it, Jonathan.
I'm tired, but no,
Well,
it's a noise. It's a real quality of life noise issue.
It sounds like something we could potentially add to the subdivision.
I mean, we talk about light pollution, so I think noise pollution, same thing.
Just if they could just drive through like the rest of the cars, we just hear the wind whoosh and not have the blub blub blub. It would be great. It's pretty constant.
Glad I don't
If you
live on.
live, if you
I'm glad I
live
don't
in
live
the
on-
woods, you just like.
I'm glad I don't live on Main Street.
So are we tackling it, this thing? Jake break?
I'd like to work on that.
so Jonathan will tackle that one.
Yeah.
All right.
What are the other ones?
Mixed Use Village Overlay District, last year at the very end, Doug Story had brought up the fact that we needed to put something in that overlay district bylaw about the density, because right now, since we don't have anything about the density, it would just fall to what's existing, which is one structure per 80,000 square foot lot. So we need to modify that.
I don't understand.
And town council completely agreed.
So, I mean, what do you mean?
more stuff.
Well, to allow more than one structure on one lot, basically.
Well, that's in the,
It is, but it needs to be spelled out. You need to
So
say,
you
you know,
can
2
put-
lots per, or whatever, 1 lot per 5,000 square
Oh,
feet,
so-
whatever.
yeah.
It needs to be defined
so we said that you can have multiple buildings.
on a
But
single
you still
lot.
need 80,000 square feet of lot for each of the multiple buildings.
Right.
So this,
So we
That's-
want to define that to, you know, however it is. So, you know, say 5,000 square foot of building for every 20,000 square foot of lot, or, you know, just to pull a number out of the air. You know, whatever the detail is.
But we say that you can have,
Because 80,000 square feet is basically 2 acres, so.
right, well, we say that you can have 10%, that says 10%, right, of building.
Yeah, but, you know, how.
So if
how
80,000
close can you
square
have
feet,
them
you can
together?
have, you can have 8,000, if you have 80,000 square feet of land, you can have 8,000 square feet of building.
Yes, but it would have to be in one building.
No.
If you had only
You can have
80,000
two,
square feet.
4,000.
Not if you only have 80,000 square feet. You need one structure for every 80,000 square
Per-
feet, however big that one structure may be. If
Even
you
in
want
the
a second
village overlay?
structure, you need another 80,000 square.
Even in the village overlay?
Yeah, because we didn't put something in there.
Is it the overall, so if I have 160,000 square feet, I can put 2 buildings?
Yes. But what if you wanted 4? What if you'd have a much better development with 4?
Right.
so this seems important because something could be coming up that wants to.
I thought it was
use
already in
overlay.
there, though, that's was all.
Sort of, but
Because we
It sounds like
it
it
was a
needs to
detail that was
be,
missed,
it
basically.
sounds like it needs to be corrected in the bylaws, not, it's in the overlay,
Right.
but I think it needs to be defined in our bylaws.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it needs to be in the dimensional schedule, because right now there's a dimensional schedule that lists, you know, residential lots, backwood lots, business
But
lots.
the overlays the regular bylaw, so I mean, I thought like, so if you have 80,000, you can have multiple buildings up to 8,000 square feet.
It's just, I think it's just one of these tweaking things.
The regular bylaw doesn't allow multiple buildings.
No, that's what the overlay does, though. The overlay allows multiple.
I mean, so town council, I
Town
mean, maybe
council,
we
yeah.
could talk to
They
Cynthia
weighed
and
in on, they weighed in
MAPC.
on this and they said, for this bylaw to work, you need to have something
Maybe I'm
in
just
there
like
about density.
inferring what I think is there, and I'm not looking at the legalese. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, just-
I would defer to town
It seems
council.
important. I mean, I know we had these discussions, I think we used the Regency as a model, like how many houses they had per
Okay.
acre, and I remember Doug saying, I don't think we want to go over that.
I'll
I
take a
forget how
look back
many
at my
units it
email.
4 or
was.
7 or something, that was fairly modest,
Like-
in my recollection.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, Doug was saying, I don't think we want to get denser than the Regency in terms of.
Yeah, but I thought this is, this is part of this special permit for the village overlay is,
Yeah.
we have the 10%, 8,000 out of 80,000, and, they come with a plan, and we determine if we'll give them the special permit based on that plan. I don't understand why we need to lock ourselves into some number.
I think you have to define a maximum, but if you can talk to Cynthia and town council about that.
Maybe I'm just misunderstanding.
I think Doug was, and talked to Doug, I think he was saying you need to have like a maximum, so what, I mean, Regency's pretty dense if you drive through
Oh, I
there.
see what you're saying. So instead of one 8,000 square foot building, now is 8 1,000 foot buildings good? What about 16 500 square foot buildings? It still fulfills the bylaw,
So we're
but
talking
do we
about-
want 16?
We're talking about number of buildings then? I don't understand what, I don't understand.
Look at the
It's-
details.
It's the residential part. It's like how
So it's the
dense
residential.
do you want the residential part? So what's the maximum?
So what's the 40B gonna be? I mean,
Well,
40B is something.
40B is something different, yeah, I guess.
but 40B is going to be less dense than Regency. Regency is the most dense development in Bolton.
So I guess I see what he's saying.
The 40B on Sugar Road, that's going to be like separate.
So we're not
units.
messing with the 10%, we're just saying how many buildings, how X number of buildings within X number of space?
I think it's about residential units, but that's a lot of homework for Erica.
I'll look into it. I don't know off the top of my my head. I'd have to go back and look at all those emails
I just
that were
don't, yeah, I
exchanged.
just don't understand.
I know town council was pretty adamant about it, so we can talk
Did they
about.
put that in writing for us to look at?
There may be some emails from them, I'll take a look.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Something that I've been just quickly talking to Mike about, the building inspector, is special permit for dimensional variation. So right now, what's happening is that people want a variance to put on a porch or to do something on their property that technically doesn't fall in line with the requirements of the zoning act. So they go before ZBA, and ZBA, they find some reason to grant the variance, but I think if it was, they had to go to court over it, it wouldn't hold up. So Mike and I have been talking about the special permit for dimensional variation, where it allows the ZBA to issue a special permit to basically allow someone to vary from the offsets to the property line, that kind of thing, without actually having to get a variance. It's just a special
So in
permit.
other words, they want to put an addition on, but now they're 48 feet away instead of 50 plus.
50 feet, exactly.
Gotcha.
And as long as it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood, the ZBA can issue in favor of that special permit. And
So
then that way,
what do
it
they do
would
now?
hold up in court.
What do they do now? They just kind of let them do it and look the other way?
They
just sort of look the other way?
No, they don't look the other way, but it's, is
They
it
have to be more
completely
creative than
valid?
they want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what about just saying no?
Well, for example,
Somebody wants to build like a porch and it puts some,
well, if it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood, then I think, they look at that. If it's not impacting their neighbors and their neighbors are okay with it, then.
There's no harm, no foul kind of thing.
And I put an example.
Then 5 years later, your neighbor sells their house to someone who's a real stickler.
I've measured this, and you're 49 feet 6 inches from my property line. I want you to take this addition and move it.
well, yeah,
Because the variance was improperly issued.
yeah.
Because there are people
I
like
mean,
that out there.
I understand like the hardship thing, like with the septic systems and things like that, but.
Well,
Yeah.
it's an idea, Mike and
Yeah,
I
sure.
are in favor of it, and I gave an example, Lunenburg has it in their bylaws, and you can read it, and if you guys think it's a good idea, we can do it. If
So
you
that's for
don't,
porches, additions, swimming pools, sheds, all of those things
I
can be,
believe so.
I mean, that,
So those rules are all in the bylaws, right? Or are they not? The 50-foot rule.
It's the dimensional schedule, so you have to be so many feet for your offsets to your property line.
I mean, I guess I'd want to talk to the, ZBA about that. 'cause-
I guess
The
I'm not
ZBA
sure.
is appointed, they're not elected, so it's like, do you get into, like,
I just think if it gets into like sheds and swimming pools and things like that, it just gets kind of trickier and,
And they don't have to grant the special permit, they can always deny it. It's just, this way it makes it a legal action versus, kind of trying to figure out a way to finagle a variance.
but, those are usually enforced, like you don't want, you want to enforce the setbacks usually in towns to kind of control, so you have that separation between your house and your neighbors. So it's just kind of putting the onus on the abutters to show up at meetings and say, I don't want my neighbor to do this. So I don't know.
Like, for
how
example,
everybody feels
Clinton
about
Savings
that.
Bank. Clinton Savings Bank had to go before ZBA for variances on their project, and
Mm-hmm.
technically would that hold up in court, I don't know. They're a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
But it would be business and residential. Yeah, so it'd just be interesting to know, again, what other towns are doing with that. Like a small porch, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but
Like a
like a
firehouse
big
porch.
addition.
But that would be at the discretion of the ZBA. I think obviously the ZBA would take that into consideration in making that decision.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's the
Noise bylaw?
noise? I just put that on there because of all the complaints we've had with Century Mill. I didn't know now if we wanted to have an actual bylaw or we just want to update our subdivision rule and regs. Or we can have a construction noise bylaw. I think Concord does that.
And what did they say? They said it can't be above certain decibels on what, after hours or?
I can't remember.
So I guess the thought is putting the same hours on somebody building a residential house versus just a subdivision. Is that kind of what we're thinking, or?
That'd be tough though, if you're working on your own house and you work for a living.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to work on the weekends, so keeping it restricted to subdivisions for now probably makes sense.
I think subdivisions is probably good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noisy stuff everybody does, like mowing, chainsaws.
I have a
No one
headlight
can
on
do
my lawnmower.
What's that?
I have a headlight on my lawnmower.
I snowblowed
No,
at
why
midnight.
I
I
would
snowblowed at midnight once and felt really bad about it, but I did it still.
I do that, but my neighbors aren't very close.
Yeah, it's loud though in the middle of the woods. Goes everywhere.
Well, I keep
They sleep and they're not gonna hear me when the windows closed.
I keep saying it, but we're at like 55% built out, so these quality of life issues are just gonna get more and more important as everybody lives closer and closer together.
That's why this board is such a responsibility. It's good.
So I should cross out the noise bylaw then? We're just gonna focus on the subdivision rules and regs for now?
I think let's do it for now, personally.
Okay, cross it out. Let's see, the next one, modify section 250-23 of the zoning bylaw. So when I met with the design review board a couple of months ago on Clinton Savings Bank, they brought up to me the fact that right now, they're not reviewing, like for example, the salt box. They didn't review those changes because salt box didn't have to go before planning board or Board of Selectmen or ZBA to do that. It was just, they only needed to get a building permit. So they, moving forward, would like to be triggered by the building permit application for structures in business, limited business, and industrial zoning districts.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
Definitely.
if we wanted that to happen, we would have to modify that bylaw.
I think Frank Patterson did talk to them anyway, but didn't he?
Well, he used
Michelle did the
talk.
work.
Yeah.
So the bylaws say something like design review board can be convened by CBA, planning board, board of selectmen. Can we add building inspector to it and
Yeah, that's
that's the
yeah.
whole change?
I think so, something like
Okay.
that, yeah.
That seems
And then
very simple.
that can get added to the building permit application that they have to go before DRB. Obviously not residential, but just businesses.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Sorry, James.
James.
All right, brother.
Okay, so we like that one, that's good. And then Carol had mentioned to me about using native plants and landscaping. The design review criteria does call out native plants. I didn't know if you want to be more specific on calling, maybe even under the design review criteria, it does say that the planning board can create landscaping guidelines, so maybe that's the direction we want to go and actually specify the type of plantings that we're looking for.
Well, I mean, so with Bolton Office Park, with Condon, the side of the building that faces the wetlands, I asked them to use more natives there, because they are in the 100-foot buffer. I just wonder why that, the Conservation Commission didn't kind of flag that,
On that particular project?
Yeah.
They might have, I don't know.
Can you just,
I can follow up with them on that.
yeah, just ask, because they can, I think, make those.
Oh, you're just saying generally, like they could,
Yeah, just why,
Well,
did they make a request, because I wasn't seeing it in the landscape plan that, that they used natives on the wetland side of the building. On the front side.
maybe they haven't gotten that far. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
It
Usually
just-
Carol is very particular about that.
I mean, I think the landscaping guidelines are they're mostly about screening and that type of stuff. How would they be more specific?
if they called out literally species that the town recommends.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of.
That's way beyond the scope of my expertise.
Me too, but I'm sure.
for everybody.
I just
Home
have,
garden department one spring, and the little ladies would come in looking for different flowers, and I'd be like, what color is that one? And I'd be like, oh, here's a red one. Is that the red one? No. All right, here's a different red one. Totally useless.
I would
Not
say.
if anyone else in the room, something
Yeah.
from Jonathan would be
Okay, so
any
scratch
better.
that.
No, I mean, I think requiring natives next to like resource areas, like within the 100-foot buffers,
That's good
is a
enough.
good idea.
Because our bylaw does call out using natives, so I think that's probably suffice.
Okay.
Phosphid bylaw versus open space model bylaw, state bylaw. I know we met with conservation months ago and started talking about this, whether or not we wanted to update the phosphid to include more of the open space.
To increase the percentage?
I can't remember now exactly.
I think it was to,
That's in one of the
yeah.
sheets here in here.
Okay.
The third sheet under town meeting 2015. Open space from 33 to 60. Wetlands allowed no more than 25%. Yes. So
I think when we talked with conservation about this, I thought we should just stay with what we have personally. Unless we want to take a piece of that and add it into ours, but.
well, I think one of the things we were exploring in that conversation was doing phosphid by right. So they wouldn't have, like currently
Wouldn't
now,
have to come with both
they have to
plans.
do two, so this would be by right, but we would up the percentage as part of that, so we'd make it easier, but we might up the percentage.
Which I like that idea.
So, I don't know, I think,
Up
again,
the percentage of open space
yeah,
required?
so you're making it easier, but,
What do you mean making it easier, is they only have to come up with one plan?
yeah, so they always choose to do the phosphid, but they can just come in and say, we're doing the phosphid, save thousands of dollars on not doing the second plan, and the time it takes, it's gonna be faster. And then, we could up the percentage of open space, and we could look at other towns and see what they.
Well, CME is 50% open, right?
Yeah, and that was, I think, their choice.
Yep.
I don't think that was the requirement. That wasn't
No, it
theirs.
was 33%, but Amy came in with the 50% figure, because 50% was wet or otherwise unbuildable.
So, if the site's like that,
What do we think we want the requirement to be? Did you guys?
well, I think we just wanna look at other
Yeah,
So is
other
that
towns
something we
that
should
do
look into?
phosphid by right.
that sounds good.
So
This year?
So you're saying that they can do the either or and get 33%, or they can just come in with phosphid and have like 40% or 50% open?
I
Or
think
we
we
just
just saying we require it, saying there's only one plan necessary now, but it has to be X amount of land.
I mean, I don't know how towns are doing it that have that, but I think if it's by right, you're eliminating the previous thing. I don't think anybody's gonna wanna do,
Right.
I just went to a workshop last week on open space subdivisions. It was in Westford, and Westford, I believe, is by right, so I'll take a look at their.
From the Bolton perspective, whenever we came up with the phosphid thing, the developer has to come in with a traditional subdivision plan and the phosphid plan, and then planning board looks at them and says, which one do we like best? Since phosphid went in, we've always picked the phosphid plan. We've never said, yeah, this traditional is better, but it's
Well,
just a hoop we make them jump through.
What percentages have open space been on all of them, do we know? Has it ever been,
33% or higher.
has it ever been,
I don't know.
is it usually around 50%, is it down to 30%?
I think it's definitely worth looking
I
into.
don't think they've ever, I don't remember seeing one that came in, 33.01.
Yeah.
It's usually above that, but, there's technical reasons why, it makes it easier for them, like water, Andy's public water supply had that humongous radius,
Yeah.
I mean, has to be open space right there,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
boom, there's percent of
Yeah, right.
you know, what was it, like 10 acres or something out of 200, so that's 5% open space just from that one thing that no one else can control.
Yeah, I like the by right, it's just getting that open space number right.
So I should look into that one then?
Yeah, so are
We're interested in
are we
that?
giving you all the work, or are we supposed to be like divvying this up?
We can divvy it up too, it doesn't matter.
Anybody interested in looking into that?
I mean, I wouldn't even know where to look for other towns.
I mean, I don't mind starting the research and
Yeah.
then someone actually writing the bylaw.
Yeah.
Google, man, Google. It'll pop up everyone's bylaws and any just browse.
Well, I know, but isn't there one
Don't play
spot?
dumb, man.
I'm saying,
If you Google, you
one-
say, Fosford bylaw, and then, you know, Massachusetts, and then you'll say,
Fosford
here's-
by right.
Here's Westford, here's Bolton,
Yeah.
here's.
It's like, it's a slog, so you have to be into it. Or you-
Well, actually, I know I did that for I looked at, I was interested in the Aquifer one, and I looked at some other towns.
Yeah, you pick a half a dozen towns that show up on there that seem like they're compatible with what we're trying to accomplish, and then you print them all out, reconcile them and to,
Yeah.
you know, what we have, and there you go.
It's basically cutting and pasting
Lots.
of cutting.
I can do that. You finished it.
So the next one, adding the requirements for monuments and signage of the open space. Now, that one actually, when I talked to Carol, maybe that's something we just put in the regulation,
think
the
so, yeah.
phosphorus
That would-
rules and regs versus a bylaw.
Okay, so
All right,
yes,
so that will
remove
take it
that.
off the,
Great.
put that in the reg. And then Carol and I briefly talked about maybe doing like a stormwater bylaw or some type of erosion control bylaw, so that way, you know, sites that are coming in that don't fall under subdivision, you know, is in a subdivision or hasn't had to be reviewed by conservation, still has to meet some type of, you know, erosion control bylaw.
During construction.
Yeah, and that just came up because I guess one of her members of her commission was complaining about actually Chuck Black's site at the corner of Warner Road and Harbor Road. I guess when it rained the other day, he had tons of sediment coming off of that property, and so that would be one example of where, you know, maybe this erosion control bylaw would be a good thing to have in place.
So, so I just wonder, you know, about that one. Is that one that the Conservation Commission can write?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I can ask Carol about that.
I mean, they can
Oh,
can
yeah,
they
I don't
generate
know. I'm
bylaws?
sorry.
We
Yeah,
don't
zoning is planning board, sorry.
But they could write it and we could push it. I think that's what Jonathan's saying.
Or at least outline it.
Yeah. What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, that would be good if they just came up with a memo or a brief on what, you know, what.
If they want to write the whole thing, that'd be cool too, but I guess we can't take greedy, right?
All right, so that's a possibility, I guess. I'll talk to Carol more about it. And then the driveway bylaw. In the current bylaw, it basically states that no runoff from driveways can go onto public roadways, which gets a little bit out of control, I think, particularly on Century Mill Estates, for example. All of the driveways right now that slope towards the road the water from it needs to be diverted into like a dry well or an infiltration trench. It needs to be basically, it can't spill into the road. So, which is kind of crazy because that drainage system was designed to handle all of that. So I would like to modify it so that all new developments are excluded from that requirement.
They can take advantage of whatever existing drainage is available in the area.
Well, yeah, right, so, you know, I understand for, you know, if someone wants to buy a lot and then develop it and put a driveway in and it's going to a road that has country drainage or no drainage, I completely understand why that's in place, because obviously you don't want runoff going to that. But a new subdivision like Century Mill where it's been designed to handle it, well, that's sort of silly, you know?
So
That's just causing more work and.
Right, so in Century Mill, it was set up, I mean, all of those retention basins were set up,
To handle it, and it's
but
not
all the driveways,
that drain to the road.
what do they have, trench drains, or they're
Well,
just
for-
tilted They're sloped?
One has a dry well and it's just a disaster. It's not working all that well. The soil isn't right, so it doesn't really infiltrate. It just ponds up and then it's causing erosion, and it's just one of those things, it's like, that's really not necessary. But
Could you put an exclusion in the rules and regulations saying that you don't need to follow that bylaw?
it has to be a bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that sounds good for future projects that
Right.
are, you know, big subdivisions where it is
I think it makes
engineered.
sense, but it's,
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I mean, I want to know what everybody else thinks here.
and
but
obviously,
also
that makes sense.
weigh in from Harold, because.
Harold.
You're the expert on that area.
Well, just, you know, yeah, Harold and,
I can ask
the
Fred
whole
about it
state.
too, what his opinion is.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have a point here in zoning map updates. So just because, so did we include that White House to the left of Country Cupboard? Is that included in the village overlay, or is it just the Kane property? I think it was that whole area, right?
I think it was that whole
I
area.
think it's, yeah, no, so there, Erica says there,
So
is that a
for
secret?
Strip on 85 or something, right?
I don't know if it's a
Yeah,
secret.
we didn't include the corner.
Yeah, okay.
Back lot there.
But you included that whole
Is
area.
there any chance of, on the signage thing, I think I'm gonna miss this, my wife is Strip was talking to her. Is there any way to require the signs to be wooden and with carved letters in any way?
Oh, for the open space?
For signage?
Oh, that was related to open space.
Oh, okay.
We have a sign bylaw.
I'd like to revisit that, if that doesn't have something specific, the sign
Is that-
bylaw.
is
Well, in
is that
terms of
the-
businesses, design review board looks at that.
Because the signs that you see when you get off the highway, off 105, are
Those are-
not very classy.
I think that was before our sign bylaw was really.
Like the metal ones
Yeah.
that say like Hebert's, or that's,
Well, this-
or the Colonial Candy sign.
So
That's fine.
So
That's
actually, they're still adding more to that, but there was talks of an overall signage plan in
Yeah.
Bolton, and we actually have like a plan for it, but we just don't have the money to implement it, right? Like the wayfinding, it's kind of what you're talking about.
Talking, yeah, so like, I don't know if you guys ever are in Southern Connecticut, like in the Greenwich, New Canaan area, all of them are
Yeah.
carved on,
Mhm.
it's almost like you're down the Cape or something, it's really nice.
So,
But
I think a lot of our signs are like that. I don't know about
Well,
net savings
a lot
bank,
are.
but we had a wayfinding program, which I think we got a grant, right? There was a grant for that?
Well, to do the proposal.
The proposal.
Yeah.
So there's a proposal for wayfinding, which is, as you come into the town, there's a welcome to Bolton sign.
Right.
And there's a structure and similar things, you know, so to would have a restaurant, but they'd have a structure to the signs and everything. So
Right.
There's a proposal for that, it's just there's no money.
like
behind it.
everyone gets a slab, you
Exactly.
get it carved.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So you should, I don't know if you could send the wayfinding stuff to him. If you-
I
I'd like to
certainly
look,
can.
because I get on the highway.
It wasn't wooden though, it was a cheaper.
But it looked
Designs
nice.
really, I think, look more expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Eric, so have you gotten the email from MAPC? They're accepting grants now?
Yeah, I saw that, yep, and I printed it out, but I haven't looked into it.
So
Would that be something we could do for this?
I mean, they're not gonna give us money to make the signs, it's more like for, you know, planning things or doing,
Right,
you know, helping us with some project. You know, one thing that was on the agenda was asking them to map out kind of the whole mobility thing, like showing all of the, you know, the paths we have now, sidewalks, cart paths, conservation paths, and then coming up with a plan that, you know, shows where we need to connect that all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that was one idea that I've been talking about, but
That's great.
if there are other ideas for Erica to apply for a grant.
Yeah, just overall aesthetic, like when we talk about the design overview and how the bank will look like a colonial, everything tying into that is what brought Melissa and me here. And anything we can do to reinforce that, I'd love to do.
Yeah, you should definitely look into the wayfinding program. I mean, it was...
Wayfinding?
Yeah. that's-
I'll send you the work.
Yeah, I'd love to look at it.
How you find places.
So you don't just have this conglomeration of
Yeah.
weird signs on posts.
The stop sign.
Yeah, it was a way to get rid of that and have a more
Yeah.
aesthetically pleasing.
Like
Yeah.
Nishway Farm, 2 something
Yes.
miles. To
Yeah.
show about.
I think we can
Some
pause it
signs.
as long as it looks good. I mean,
And there was kind of gonna be like a color code to it, like, I don't know, like red was a farm and green was a trail, I don't know exactly, but you
right.
can.
There's enough of it, that's cool.
Yeah, and it dead ended when we got costs for it, because it was just astronomical. Like,
Yeah.
one company for the entire proposal wanted $120,000 to fabricate the signs.
Go out
Then
and try and raise
Signs we
I
talking about.
contacted a different company when I got here, and just to do the welcome to Bolton sign, because EDC
Yeah.
brought it up,
Yeah,
and they wanted $23,000 just to do the one sign. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
They're making out
outrageous.
of titanium.
And I asked them, like, take whatever the cheapest material is and give me kind of a breakdown.
I'd like, are businesses interested in
private
like
fundraising.
paying for their
Yeah.
sign?
well, I know, for instance, because I watched the selectmen meeting all the time, Fortini's just came to them and they asked it for, they requested to put signs, add another sign to that post that you're talking about, and they allowed it, you know?
Yeah.
So there's gonna be another sign on there, which, you know, I want businesses to, you know, as a member of the EDC, I want businesses to have signs there, but it would be nice if it was a little bit better looking than what it is.
When you see
Yeah.
those up in Maine, like you're driving along and there's a
Yeah,
sign that's
yes.
like so-and-so raspberries, 2.3
Yeah,
miles with an
Yeah, it's
arrow.
beautiful, yeah.
And they are all kind of the same text.
I think it would be great, it's just, you know, if it could be reduced somehow to be cost
Bring
effective.
the sign to
Well,
money.
maybe this isn't a planning board thing, but I think that if we were
Totally
to
blank on it.
put together, not a petition, but try to raise a fund,
The sign
I'm sure, like,
So the EDC was looking into that a couple years ago too, well, not the fund.
well, let's talk about it then, because I think we could raise funds within the town to
And
do
Lisa,
it.
Lisa Miller was really, she's on the EDC, she was looking at it, maybe I could connect you with her too, she was really big into it.
That'd be awesome.
One final thing, the zoning map update. I know that you've been having some interest in Skinner. Would it be worthwhile trying to add Skinner into the overlay, or do we not want to do that right away?
Why did we not include Penn? Just because it
Because we
wasn't
were
in
really
the
focused.
495 corridor?
Yeah, we were really focused on the 495 corridor.
I think the consensus was like, let's see,
Right here,
let's
see how it
do
goes.
one,
Okay.
Yeah,
and then we can add something.
because I think
later.
the Skinner might be a good spot to add it.
Well, I mean, the guy who's representing that was interested in the overlay, but he wanted a cottage overlay at some point. So I think I tried to explain the difference between the mixed-use village overlay
Yeah.
and a cottage overlay, are just very different. So he was interested in a different
Cottage like Berlin, near the Rotary by Spooky World, that kind of thing.
Actually Concord, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's like the 40B where you just have these little
Super cluster,
cottages
yeah, yeah.
and,
The guy in Concord had like 2 acres or something. It was a very small thing to play with, and each had like, 20 or 30 very small homes on it.
This is
With
perfect.
like a communal
It's kinda cool.
parking lot, and it was a very cool design
Yeah, it
for
was.
what
Yeah,
it was.
communal parking lot, and you're not driving outside of that parking lot, you're walking.
yeah, and there's like a
From house to
common
house.
And
and
it was
they all
like
face
porch,
each
porch,
other.
porch, porches up the other side, so, everything's lit, all the neighbors know the neighbors, and
What was the square footage? Were they like,
they were all pretty small, I think.
was it 550 or 750?
I don't remember the
They
number,
were
but
like
yeah.
granny flats, like
No, it's just.
master
yeah.
bedroom with bath
Single family home,
downstairs
yeah,
and like a
thing.
guest
It's
room with
very-
the bath
Oh, it's-
upstairs and then
it's
the open
studios.
plan kitchen,
Okay.
dining room, living room. Here,
I don't remember.
it's called River something.
River Bridge, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, there's
Everybody's tired. Thank you, Eric.
You have a drive.
Yeah, I gotta put my.
Good for you, what?
My phone. So should we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor, say
Aye.
Second that one.
Everybody.
Pick one.
Yeah,
You
please
keep
put me in
going.
touch, because I think also that we could